Chapter 1331. Long Yu had never heard of what the Nine Hell Steel had done to the Netherworld realm. Even if he asked other people, he wouldn't be able to get any answer. That was because the Nine Hell Steel did not belong to this world in the first place, and Long Yu had not been able to detect its core part yet. Not to mention Long Yu, even demigods couldn't figure out many of the abilities of the Nine Hell Steel. Therefore, Long Yu did not tell anyone else about it. He observed the corner where the Netherworld realm was being absorbed and melted again cautiously. When other people were paying attention to the dragon of Tartarus breaking the barrier of the world, Long Yu's focus had quietly changed. What is this thing? Long Yu looked on helplessly as all the energy of the Netherworld realm was completely fused by the 9 Underworlds tablet. Then, it was forged and smelted into a pitch-black ball of energy. Perhaps it could be called the Ball of Tartarus. It was a pitch-black ball the size of a planet, filled with extremely dense power of the divine characters of Tartarus. It was completely dark and did not even emit the slightest light. If Long Yu had not sensed its existence through the perception of his small world, he would not have been able to discover it with his naked eyes. Even the perception of spiritual senses could be almost completely blocked by this thing. Only a tiny bit of the aura of the divine characters of Tartarus could be sensed by the creatures nearby. Long Yu tried it. Based on the strength of his spiritual senses that had been enhanced by the light of equalization, he could only sense the feeble aura of the Ball of Tartarus within a range of half a kilometer at most. The aura was as weak as a bunch of tiny divine characters of Tartarus that Long Yu had condensed on his fingertip when he snapped his fingers. If one did not examine it very carefully, they would not be able to detect it at all. What is this thing exactly? Long Yu felt somewhat uneasy in his heart. No matter who it was, they would always be afraid of the unknown. Long Yu was naturally the same. He was somewhat afraid that this thing would cause damage to his small world or bring some bad effects. However, he soon felt that his idea had become a reality. Under the infusion of the 9 Hell Tablet's power, the 9 Hell Ball actually started to produce a power that Long Yu was extremely familiar with, which was the aura of the innate divine ability. This ball of the Netherworld was actually gradually transforming into the innate divine fruit. No, it wasn't that the ball of the 9 Underworlds was gradually evolving. Instead, it had originally contained the remaining power of the Juyo Dragon Emperor's 7 great innate mystiques. Right now, it was merely activating these powers. At this moment, the power of these innate sacred ability fruits actually started to connect with Long Yu's small world, just like the other 7 innate sacred abilities of Long Yu. This situation caused Long Yu to have an ominous premonition in his heart. This thing, could it be that it would become his 8th divine ability? When this thought flashed across Long Yu's mind, he was dumbfounded. Could the 9 Serene prison tablet really have such a terrifying ability? The 8th divine ability? Even the thought of it was terrifying. Long Yu had never heard of anyone who had 8 divine abilities. Not only him, but even the experts in the demigod level wouldn't have heard of it. Any cultivator could only produce 7 innate god fruits after reaching the secret realm. This was an iron rule in the world of natural cultivation, and no one could violate it. Whether it was the human race, the demon race, or any other alien race, no one could escape from this rule. The 7 innate god fruits were the greatest gifts that the gods could give to cultivators. However, right now, under the weird power of the 9 Hell Tablet, the 8th innate god fruit was gradually produced in Long Yu's body. Long Yu almost didn't dare to believe his own eyes. However, no matter what he thought, this was indeed a fact that was happening in front of him. That pure, pitch-black ball of 9 underworlds was gradually connecting with the small world in his dantian, and was no different from the other 7 divine ability fruits. The 8th divine ability, Long Yu's face stiffened. He didn't know whether this situation was good or bad for him. He also didn't know what was wrong with the 9 Hell Tablet that made the entire Netherworld into the 8th divine ability for him. However, if this 8th divine ability was really useful, it seemed that this ability was quite heaven-defying. It's a pity that I can't test it now. Long Yu thought to himself. He didn't plan to share this with anyone for the time being, because it wouldn't do him any good if others knew. If he could return from the ancient alien ruins, the first thing he had to do was to find out the effect of the eighth divine ability and whether it would have any side effects on him. At this moment, Long Yu didn't have the chance to test this thing. When the small world in his heart finally stabilized, he once again focused his attention on the outside world. At this time, the dragon of the netherworld under Ji Tao's control was still trying to break the space barrier and create a space-time tunnel. 2 hours had already passed since she started to bombard the barrier. During these 2 hours, the netherworld realm in the small dragon defense world had transformed into the netherworld sphere, becoming his eighth divine ability. Moreover, half of the space barrier had already been blasted apart. Even a normal demigod expert wouldn't be able to break the space barrier and create a space-time tunnel in such a short time. From this, it can be seen that the power of the dragon of the netherworld is dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than that of a normal demigod expert. Little White watched from the side and couldn't help but feel a little emotional. This level of power was something that even he, as sixth phase great sovereign who was close to the peak of the sovereign secret realm, couldn't imagine, let alone Shui Luo and Red Oriole. At this moment, the dragon of the 9 underworlds was constantly bombarding the spatial barrier. Even Xiao Bai and the others could sense the unusual auras coming from all directions. It was a feeling of oppression from afar, as if a storm was coming. It made everyone's heart feel heavy, and gradually, it became difficult for them to breathe. If even they could feel it, there was no need to mention Ji Tao, who was attacking the space barrier in the outside world. As expected, very soon, Long Yu received a telepathic message from Ji Tao. The 4 forces are very close. I can't feel what kind of power they are, but I'm sure that they're all coming for me. If I can't resist them, don't bother me. I'll see. Long Yu didn't reply. He just sent a telepathic message in a deep voice. If there was a chance, he wouldn't abandon them. Even if he had to put his life on the line, Long Yu wouldn't hesitate. That was how he saved the netherworld dragon blade from the hands of the foreign demigods. Ji Tao didn't know if she would be touched by Long Yu's words. But even if she was, it wasn't the time to be touched. Just as the pressure on everyone was getting heavier and heavier, to the point where they could no longer bear it, they finally saw 4 pillars of light sweeping over from the yellow sands in the distant horizon. The 4 pillars of light were completely golden. Even in the golden sandstorm, they were incomparably dazzling. It was as if they were the source of all the power in the world, and they emitted a vast and shocking aura. The golden pillars of light seemed to be coming from the end of the sky. Along the way, they gathered the power of the metal element and grew stronger. The aura became denser and denser as they rolled through the golden sand clouds. This thing is like my fighting heaven power. There's no limit to the power of stacking layer by layer. Long Yu gritted his teeth. He immediately saw how powerful the 4 pillars of light were. At the beginning, the 4 pillars of light might not be so powerful, but they appeared in 4 different corners of the entire relic of the primordial alien race. At first, the golden pillars of light must have been easily destroyed. As they absorbed the power of the metal element along the way, they would become stronger and more terrifying. Even a powerful being like the Dragon of Tartarus couldn't reach the 4 corners of the relic and destroy the 4 pillars of light in a short time. Therefore, even if it knew how powerful the thing was, it could only shatter 2 of the pillars of light at best. As a result, the other 2 pillars of light would attack the target from a further distance and become even more powerful. The multi-winged race was indeed very impressive to deal with the top experts with such a formation. At this moment, even the body of the Dragon of Tartarus seemed to be unable to bear it. Ji Tao was in the body of the Dragon of Tartarus. She knew the toughness of the body and the 4 pillars of light better than anyone else. Even she was not confident that she could resist the 4 pillars of light. It was not hard to imagine that the 4 pillars of light were more than 100 times stronger than regular demigods. Prepare for the impact. Ji Tao's telepathic thoughts were sent back to Long Yu. Then, the Dragon of Tartarus roared, and layers of revelation-level barriers of Tartarus overlapped around Long Yu and the rest of them. Now, only the core of the temple was left around Long Yu and the rest, including the gate and the illusion of white light. At this moment, they were all covered by at least 10 layers of barriers of Tartarus. Ji Tao was doing her best to protect them. As for Ji Tao herself, her remnant soul was integrated into the devil dust heart. According to Long Yu, as long as her remnant soul survived in the devil dust heart, even if the entire body of the dragon of Tartarus was destroyed, there was still a chance of survival. Ji Tao's remnant soul entered the devil dust heart and was ready to face the impact of the 4 golden pillars of light. When the 4 golden pillars of light came from the horizon, they brought along a sandstorm condensed by the power of the metal element. The next moment, the center of the relic of the ancient alien race was like the end of the world, and an earth-shattering power exploded. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying shockwave surged out in all directions. Before the shockwave arrived, the imposing pressure had already descended on Long Yu and the others, causing their souls to tremble at almost the same time. In an instant, they fainted and lost consciousness. Chapter 1332. In the primordial alien relic of the multi-winged race, a terrifying explosion swept across the entire area. As the center of the explosion, the body of the dragon of Netherworld was completely vaporized, leaving only the demon dust heart still beating where it was. Under the impact of such a violent force, the demon dust heart was slightly damaged. It looked a little disheveled, but it did not suffer any serious damage. Moreover, it was regenerating at an extremely terrifying speed. Not far below the demon dust heart, there were originally more than 10 layers of barriers with Netherworld characters. After the blast wave of the explosion, only 2 layers remained. The rest of the barriers with Netherworld characters were completely destroyed. However, in the end, 2 layers of barriers persisted, protecting Long Yu, Little White, and the others who were inside. They also protected the core of the multi-winged race's temple from any damage. However, Long Yu, Xiao Bai, Red Oriole, and Shuel Luo had directly fainted from the impact, and it seemed like they wouldn't be able to wake up for a short period of time. The 4 of them collapsed at the entrance of the Sacred Hall's core. Under the defensive barrier of the Netherworld divine characters, their lives weren't in any danger for the time being. Just when they all lost consciousness, a great battle was about to take place. As the devil dust heart continued to regenerate the body of the dragon of Tartarus, an enormous stone statue of the multi-winged clan appeared on the horizon far away. The pressure of the stone statue was even more intimidating than the demigod illusions that they had seen before. From this, it could be seen that the stone statue of the multi-winged race was at least at the demigod level. As for what level it was among the demigods, no one knew. Sensing the appearance of the dragon of Netherworld, the stone statue finally woke up. In the entire primordial alien relic of the multi-winged race, there was probably only one such peak-level stone statue. At this moment, the stone statue appeared to deal with the dragon of Netherworld. The 4 golden beams of light just now were just the appetizer. The exit is on the stone statue. The remnant soul of the girl, Ji Tao, was hiding in the demon dust heart at this moment. As the demon dust heart rapidly regenerated, she also felt a wave of spatial power approaching. The spatial power came from the body of the stone statue. As long as this stone statue was defeated, the exit of the primordial alien relic would appear. Although he didn't know where he would be after he left, he guessed that it should not be far from the demon race's territory. After all, although this ancient foreign race ruin was vast, it was not very vast and boundless. If he was unable to defeat this stone statue, then the body of a 9 underworld dragon would probably collapse here. The demon dust heart would probably be sealed once again, and there was even a possibility that it would be destroyed. No matter what, Ji Tao had to suppress this stone statue. Mo Chen's heart was beating rapidly, and the Netherworld chi spread out in all directions. The Netherworld dragon's body was recovering at an extremely fast speed. The dragon's body, dragon tail, dragon claws, dragon head, every part of its body began to recover. The peak of the Devil Dust Heart Martial Path secret technique was this terrifying. In a short period of time, the Devil Dust Heart had completely restored the body of the dragon of the 9 underworlds. In the beginning, the Devil Dust Heart had been sealed by the 108,000 floating islands for too long. Therefore, when it had just broken free from the seal, its regeneration speed was not that fast. But now, in just a few breaths' time, the entire body of the dragon of the 9 underworlds had completely recovered, as if it had not suffered any damage at all. On the contrary, after the surrounding space was bombarded by the 4 golden light pillars, the shock wave spread out and destroyed everything that existed. The entire void of the nearby primordial alien relic had become a chaotic area with the power of the metal attribute. After the dragon of the 9 underworld body was regenerated, the stone statue of the multi-winged clan happened to come in front of it. Terrifying powers were displayed, and an earth-shattering battle began. Under such circumstances, Ji Tao was afraid that it would affect Long Yu and the others who were not far away, so she was distracted for a while. She directly sent the core of the sacred temple, where Long Yu and the others were, away. At the same time, she superimposed more than 10 layers of Netherworld divine characters' defensive barriers to ensure their safety. Very quickly, the core of the sacred hall, carrying the unconscious little white, Long Yu, and the others, disappeared into the surrounding metal elemental primordial energy. When Long Yu woke up, he did not know how much time had passed. When he woke up, he found that little white and the others were waiting for him. They were discussing something with Shui Luo and Red Oriole. As for Consort Yu, she did not seem to have come out of the primordial gold pond. Your cultivations are all higher than mine. Sure enough, you woke up before me. Long Yu's heart trembled. He quickly asked, "What's the situation now?" As he asked, he looked around. However, he found that there were chaotic storms of metal attribute power outside the dozen or so defensive barriers. He could not see the figure of the dragon of the 9 underworlds at all. "I don't know. I've been drifting with the core of the sacred temple since I woke up. I don't dare to leave these barriers," Little White said solemnly. "I'm afraid we'll have to keep waiting here. At least, with our strength alone, we definitely can't leave this place rashly." "Going with the flow isn't the way I want to live," Shui Luo sighed and looked around with a sad expression. They were surrounded by a sandstorm, and although there was no need for them to be afraid of such a sandstorm, no one knew if there were any dangers lurking in the sand. Everyone remembered that the dragon of the 9 underworlds had been struck by 4 beams of golden light from the horizon before they had fainted. Just the pressure from a shockwave had knocked them out, let alone the dragon of the 9 underworlds that had taken the brunt of the 4 beams of golden light. Now, no one could sense the aura of the dragon of the 9 underworlds, so they had no idea what was going on. It couldn't have been killed by the 4 beams of light, right? Little White said with a grin. "Don't talk nonsense." Red Oriole glared at him and turned away. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable worry. She was obviously not worried about the dragon of the 9 underworld's body, but Ji Tao's remnant soul. No matter what, she and Ji Tao were friends who could talk to each other for a long time. I've received her telepathic thoughts. At this moment, Long Yu's face slightly changed. He had received a message from Ji Tao. However, the message had probably been delivered a long time ago, and he did not know it until he woke up. Of course, Long Yu couldn't guess the specifics. He only heard from Ji Tao that the entire ancient foreign race ruins had been cleaned up. There were no longer any dangers, arrays, or stone statues of the multi-winged race. Except for the sandstorm made of the primordial power of the metal class, the only thing left was the core of the temple that they were in. Everything else in the entire alien relic had been completely destroyed in the battle. The Sand Palace, the demigod illusion arrays, and so on. Nothing was left. The final result of the battle between the Netherworld dragon controlled by Ji Tao and the stone statue of the multi-winged race at the peak of the demigod level was that the Netherworld dragon finally sealed the stone statue of the multi-winged race, but it was unable to completely shatter it. The statue of the multi-winged race that appeared in the end turned out to be a super expert whose body was similar to that of the dragon of the 9 underworlds. Of course, it should not be comparable to the Geoyo Dragon Emperor. After all, the strength that the dragon of the 9 underworlds could exert with the body that Ji Tao controlled was probably less than 1/3 of the Geoyo Dragon Emperor's own strength. That was already shocking enough. At least, Long Yu and the others absolutely did not expect that there would be such a powerful statue in the primordial relic of the multi-winged race. In the end, it turned out that Ji Tao controlled the body of the dragon of the 9 underworlds and sealed the statue of the multi-winged race, unable to destroy it. Ji Tao's telepathic thoughts said that we should rush to the center of the alien relic when we wake up. She left an aura mark for us so that we can follow her. Inside the statue of the multi-winged race, there is an exit to leave this primordial relic. Long Yu said to everyone, "I see. Then let's hurry over and take a look." Red Oriole said somewhat worriedly, "It's fine for us to go over, but what about the Sacred Palace core?" Shueluo glanced at the entrance of the Sacred Palace core behind him and the white illusory light in the middle of the door. Behind the white light of the door was the absolute primordium gold pond. The protection of the absolute primordium gold pond was very good. After all, it was the best place for the younger generation of the multi-winged race to train. The sturdiness of the building was first-rate. It could be seen that the area of the absolute primordium gold pond was not large. After the entire Sacred Palace core was separated, it was like a building standing behind everyone. Due to the uniqueness of the Sacred Palace core, everyone could not put it into their respective small worlds. Even Xiao Bai cannot do it. As for the reason, no one knew. We can only go and take a look first. Everyone looked at each other and nodded. In the end, they decided that Long Yu would go and explore the way first. This was not a problem for Long Yu. After all, there was no other danger apart from the sandstorm. Therefore, the Void Nether Dragon Blade would be able to travel freely in this primordial relic. There was no need for Ji Tao to deceive Long Yu and the others in this aspect. Therefore, everyone trusted her quite a bit. Very soon, Long Yu was ready. He took out the Void Nether Dragon Blade and let Little Su pass through the defensive barrier of the 9 Nether Divine characters outside. Little Su disappeared into the surrounding metal-type Absolute Primordium Force sandstorm. The 9 Nether Divine characters' defensive barrier constructed by Ji Tao's 9 Nether Dragon body could only defend against external attacks. It could not stop them from leaving. Therefore, Long Yu did not encounter any obstruction when he left. After leaving the protection, Long Yu went into the sandstorm outside. As expected, he felt a faint aura. It was the aura of the 9 Nether Divine characters left behind by Ji Tao. This aura guided Long Yu towards the center of the primordial relic. Otherwise, they would not be able to tell directions after being unconscious for so long. Chapter 1333. Little Void traversed through space and soon arrived several hundred kilometers away. It seemed that while everyone was unconscious, the core of the sacred hall had been pushed far away. After traveling for such a long distance, Long Yu made a decision in his heart. He tried the 8th ability in his body, the pitch-black ball of 9 underworlds. Although it was temporarily stable, and there was nothing special about it, Long Yu did not know what it could be used for. So, Long Yu took advantage of the time when the Void Nether Dragon Blade was traveling outside to go to the 9 underworlds Prison Steel's pocket world and found a group of ice gods. Originally, he wanted to find like Qing Feng and have him find an opponent with strength similar to his from the White Feather Monsters clan. But on second thought, the Ball of 9 Underworlds as the 8th ability was a bit strange. If there was something special about it, it would be bad if the White Feather Monsters clan sparring partner was killed with that thought in mind. Long Yu found a dozen ice gods to test its effects. However, it was a pity that the hundreds of billions of ice gods in Long Yu's small world were at most at the level of 3 or 4-star monarchs, and they were of no use to Long Yu to train his strength. However, he could experiment and see what effect the Ball of 9 Underworlds had. Soon, Long Yu pulled 10 ice gods to stand in line in the air of the 9 underworlds prison steel's pocket world. The first one was first. Long Yu raised his hand, and divine characters of 9 underworlds condensed in his hand. Then, a dark ball appeared in his hand. When the ball appeared, Long Yu felt an eerie aura coming from it. "Let me see what you can do," Long Yu thought to himself, and threw the dark ball at the first ice god. Before the ball of 9 underworlds touched the ice god, Long Yu let go of the ice god. After all, it was a 2-star Emperor-level ice god. So, the moment he let go of it, it turned around and tried to escape as fast as possible. Unfortunately, Long Yu's ball of 9 underworlds actually emitted a sticky power that could slow down the target's movement. With Long Yu's current cultivation in the Sovereign Secret Realm, the 9 nether spheres' viscous binding force caused the Ice God race expert to be unable to move at all. It was as though he was trapped in a spider's web. Not only was its movement restrained, but even the energy in its body was entangled. At this moment, even if the Ice God wanted to self-destruct, it couldn't do so. As for using divine characters of space to escape, Long Yu didn't know if an opponent in the same realm as him could do it. In any case, the Ice God in front of him couldn't do it. Its energy was entangled and sealed, and it couldn't use divine characters of space. Immediately after, Long Yu saw the sphere of 9 underworlds enveloping the Ice God clan member. The terrifying, tearing force actually tore the Ice God clan member's body into ice shards, and then absorbed him into the sphere of 9 underworlds. In a short period of time, the entire Ice God was completely torn into pieces and absorbed by the sphere of the netherworld. Not even dregs were left behind. It was also at this moment that Long Yu felt some changes in his small world. After the ball of 9 underworlds absorbed the Ice God, it seemed to have strengthened a little. Although it wasn't much, Long Yu was sure that it wasn't an illusion. Now that Long Yu's balance control had reached the peak of the 9th level, he could clearly feel the changes in his innate divine abilities. Although the change was only a trillionth, it was still within the range of his senses. However, Long Yu wasn't able to sense how much the change was. After all, the Ice God wasn't strong, and its strength was still a little weaker than Long Yu's. If this ball of 9 underworld can devour the energy of others and become stronger, wouldn't it be invincible? Long Yu was a little shocked. This discovery made him impatient to start the next step. Since one Ice God couldn't make him feel how much stronger the ball of 9 underworlds had become, he would try devouring 10 of them. Anyway, there were hundreds of billions of Ice Gods in his small world. However, when he continued to use the ball of 9 underworlds to crush and devour the second Ice God, he found that this time, the ball of 9 underworlds only entangled the opponent and used the power of the netherworld divine characters to imprison the opponent's movement. It didn't crush and devour the opponent. Could it be that the ball of 9 underworlds needs time to digest the opponent's energy? Long Yu's face was a little stiff. This speculation made him a little puzzled, but since this was the case, there was no other way. He played with the ball of 9 underworlds casually and soon found that the ball of 9 underworlds could entangle many people at the same time. However, this way, the netherworld divine characters would be scattered, and the entanglement on a single target would be weakened a lot. After all this time, it turns out to be a controlled divine ability. However, I still haven't figured out the effect of the devouring, Long Yu thought to himself. Since he couldn't figure it out for the time being, he didn't care. The netherworld dragon blade outside was almost reaching its destination. The entire primeval relic of the multi-winged race had a circumference of about 10,000 kilometers. At this moment, Long Yu had already moved forward for 1,000 kilometers following the aura of the netherworld divine characters that Jitao left behind. Just as Jitao said, there was nothing else along the way, except for the yellow sandstorm condensed by the primordial power of the metal class. There was nothing in the entire primeval relic. It was completely normal for a battle between 2 experts who were almost at the peak of the demigod level to cause such a result. It was also what Long Yu had imagined, but when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still inevitably shocked by such a scene. From afar, Long Yu finally sensed the two tyrannical forces coming from the front through his balance control. These two forces brought with them a boundless sense of oppression, but Long Yu did not feel threatened at all. This made Long Yu realize that the dragon of 9 underworlds controlled by Ji Tao had probably really sealed the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race, and the consequence was that the dragon of 9 underworlds couldn't escape either. Once Ji Tao left, the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race would break free again and cause damage to the entire primeval alien relic. It took Ji Tao a lot of effort to finally seal it and open the space array on it, which was equivalent to opening an exit to the outside world for Long Yu and the rest of them. When the dragon of 9 underworlds was getting closer and closer, Long Yu saw an enormous stone statue covered in feathers, which was vaguely visible in the yellow sandstorm. On the entire body of the enormous stone statue, there was a black dragon hovering, emitting the aura of the netherworld divine characters. It was exactly the dragon of 9 underworlds that Ji Tao controlled. In the yellow sandstorm, the figures of 2 enormous creatures were vaguely visible. Even though Long Yu had arrived, the 2 enormous creatures didn't react at all. Even though they were so close, Ji Tao didn't send any telepathic thoughts to Long Yu, which gave Long Yu a bad feeling. He hurriedly asked Little Void to go closer and check. Very soon, the dragon of 9 underworlds broke through the yellow sandstorm and arrived in front of the 2 enormous creatures in a streak of blue light. At this moment, Long Yu finally discovered that the dragon of 9 underworlds that was coiled on the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race had its eyes closed, as if it had fallen into a state of hibernation. Could it be that Ji Tao has fallen asleep because she has consumed too much energy? Long Yu frowned slightly as he thought to himself. However, no matter what he guessed, it was a fact that Ji Tao was in a state of unconsciousness, and it was also a fact that the demigod statue of the multi-winged clan was also motionless. As soon as Long Yu raised his head, he saw a space vortex that was concentrated in the several pairs of wings of the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race. It was protected by those wings. From the space vortex, Long Yu could sense some familiar aura. It must be the exit to the outside world, but he didn't know where it led to. It's true. There's no movement at all. Long Yu observed the body of the dragon of 9 underworlds and the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race at a close distance. He felt rather desolate. Even such a powerful existence couldn't avoid the same ending as ordinary people when it encountered an equally powerful opponent. Was there truly invincible in this world? Long Yu felt a little emotional, but he also understood that it was not the time to feel emotional. Let's go back and tell them about the situation here first. As for Ji Tao, although she should be in a deep sleep for now, her remnant soul and consciousness should still exist. I just don't know how long it will take for her to wake up. Long Yu thought for a while and did not stay in this place for long. Instead, he turned around and returned to where he came from, because he knew that if he rashly passed through the space vortex and left this place, it was very likely that he would encounter some unexpected things. For example, if he said that he wouldn't be able to come back, or if he said that he would encounter some special danger, and so on. All these considerations made Long Yu have to be careful. He decided to go back and explain the situation to the others first. He hurried back the way he came. Halfway through the journey, Long Yu returned to his own small world and tried to use the 9 underworlds ball. As expected, it seemed that because the ice god race had been completely digested, the 9 underworld ball had once again devoured another ice god race, and its power had increased a little again. This bit of power seemed insignificant, but if it could continue to increase like this, it could be imagined that the future of this 8th mystique would definitely be glorious. Of course, Long Yu still had a lot of doubts about it, and he always maintained enough vigilance. After all, the 8th mystique itself was strange enough. If he did not keep some vigilance, he would probably regret it when an accident happened. Chapter 1334. Not long after, Long Yu returned to the Sacred Hall core that was still drifting. He met up with Little White, Shuel Luo, and Red Oriole to discuss countermeasures. After confirming that what Ji Tao had said was true, everyone let out a sigh of relief. However, it was difficult for them to make a decision. They had no way of controlling the sacred temple core to the exit, let alone bringing it out of this place. Consort Yu hasn't come out yet. We don't have to wait for her. Let's go out from that exit and see what it is. What do you think? Little White glanced at everyone and suggested in a deep voice, although it's an exit on the multi-winged race's statue, the spatial vortex that's connected to it shouldn't be far from the demon territory. It's better for us to go out and explore first. I think so too. If there's any unpredictable danger, even Consort Yu won't be able to solve it. Shuo Luo nodded. And if it's something Consort Yu can solve, it won't be able to threaten us in a short time. That's right. Let's go. Little White agreed with Shuo Luo's words and left the sacred hall core with a smile. Red Oriole thought for a moment and left a jade slip on the spot. Of course, it was for Consort Yu. If Consort Yu came out of the primordium gold pool during this period, she would be able to know the situation of the others and make the next decision. After leaving the jade slip, Red Oriole left the sacred hall core with everyone else. The four of them entered the void nether dragon blade and traveled through the yellow sandstorm condensed by the metal element primordium power. 2 hours later, they arrived at the place where the dragon of the nine nether and the multi-winged race's demigod statue were fighting. The two colossal figures were in a stalemate. Neither of them could move. The dragon of the nine nether could no longer receive the telepathic message from Ji Tao's remnant soul. It had no idea what was going on. All right, let's go out now. Everybody saw the vortex that was protected by the enormous wings of the multi-winged clan's demigod statue. They looked at each other and nodded, making up their minds. Under Long Yu's control, the netherworld dragon blade flew toward the spatial vortex. The closer it got, the more he could feel the powerful aura of the netherworld dragon and the demigod stone statue. Unfortunately, both of them were restrained by the other party and could not do anything. It was as if the two of them had become real stone statues that would exist for eternity. The void nether dragon dagger turned into a blue stream of light and quickly flew to the side of the demigod statue of the multi-winged race. Then it flew into the vortex. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. It could be said that the moment that would decide their fate had finally arrived. The water element power in the spatial vortex was not chaotic. Instead, it flowed in an orderly fashion, connecting to a certain region of the outside world. After the void nether dragon dagger flew into it, the blue stream of light immediately disappeared from the ancient ruins of the alien race. When it reappeared, what appeared in front of Long Yu, Little White, and the others was an endless, pitch-black space of nothingness. There was nothing in front of them, left, right, up, down, or down. What is this place? Red Oriole frowned slightly. I have the space-time mark of planet Shuo Luo on me, but I can't feel it. It's obvious that this place is too far away from planet Shuo Luo. As for how many regions it is, I don't know. Well, to be honest, I even set the teleportation coordinates of the various battlefield fortresses on the alien race's battlefield with a space-time mark. It's just that I can't feel any of them now. Little White's expression was a little conflicted. It jumped out of the inner space of the void nether dragon dagger and floated in the empty space to sense. Long Yu also came out of the void nether dragon dagger and cast the light of equalization on Little White. Unfortunately, even so, Little White could not sense the presence of anything in the surroundings. Not only was there nothing, but there was also no energy in the void. There was no world spirit chi, no creation power, nothing. If there was anything in the void, it would be the spatial vortex that everyone had come out of. The spatial vortex was not big. It was a light blue water-type primordial power vortex. It floated quietly behind everyone and was especially eye-catching in the endless pitch-black space. In any case, we should be safe here for the time being. As for what to do next, let's wait for Consort Yu to come out. She's more knowledgeable than we are, so she might be able to recognize what kind of place this is. Xiaobai said with a sigh. If this place is close to the demon race's territory, we can use the multi-winged race's ancient ruins as our back garden. Luo smiled optimistically. There's the sacred temple's core inside. We can enter it at any time to comprehend the metal primordial power. This thing will belong to us in the future, and it's not impossible to develop a great force. That's true, but the key is to determine which race this void belongs to. I don't want my back garden to be in the foreign race's territory. Little White's mouth twitched. It was useless for everyone to say these words now. So Long Yu took some time to condense 18-9 Netherworld hunters. He then let these 18-9 Netherworld hunters scatter in all directions. Maybe they could find something. Then, everyone returned to the void Nether Dragon Dagger. Little Sue brought the 4 of them through the spatial vortex and returned to the multi-winged race's ancient ruins. Soon, everyone returned to the ancient ruins and found the sacred temple's core. Right now, everyone's plan was to wait for Concubine Yu to come out before making any plans. Therefore, the only thing they could do at this stage was to cultivate on the spot. As for Long Yu, he did not want to challenge his own illusion and comprehend the metal origin power. He didn't want to see Consort Yu coming out and the others waiting for him. There was no end to waiting. So Long Yu decided to comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text first. For Long Yu, the cost-performance ratio of comprehending the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text was much higher than comprehending the metal primordial power. After all, the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text was derived from the metal primordial power, and it was a source of power that surpassed the metal primordial power by several times. As for comprehending it, Long Yu didn't need to worry at all. He just needed to enter the 9 Nether Prison Tablet space, which was next to Long Yu's small world. After returning to the sacred temple's core, everyone started cultivating. Red Oriole continued to break through to the second stage Great Sovereign Realm. No one knew what Little White was doing, and Luo went to challenge the white light illusion. He didn't want to enter the absolute beginning gold pond. He just wanted to understand himself and fight with himself to familiarize himself with various martial techniques and divine abilities. Long Yu ran to the 9 Underworld's monument and started to absorb the dense Revelation Level 9 Underworld's divine characters inside the 9 Underworld's monument. Nearly a month's time passed by quickly. At the beginning, Consort Yu said that she would cultivate in the absolute beginning gold pond for a month, and now that a month had passed, she should be coming out soon. The results of Long Yu's cultivation over the past month were remarkable. Originally, he had comprehended about 10% of the Enlightenment Level 9 Nether Divine text. Now, he had comprehended 20%. When converted to his basic strength, he had basically doubled. Long Yu could feel that the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text in his body was surging. If he continued to absorb it, it might have an adverse effect, so he stopped. It seems like I can't continue to absorb and comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. Long Yu shook his head in pity. But now that he had comprehended 20% of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text, his strength had increased greatly, and his ability to challenge those above his level had increased once again. Long Yu came out of the 9 Nether Prison Tablet space and saw that Red Oriole had indeed made a breakthrough and stepped into the second stage Great Sovereign Realm. Her overall strength had increased much more than Long Yu's in the past month. Little White and Luo had also come here and reunited, waiting for Consort Yu to appear. If there were no accidents, she should be out by now. Consort Yu's speed of comprehending the metal-type absolute beginning power shouldn't be slow, at least faster than Long Yu's comprehension of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. I wonder how much of the metal-type absolute beginning power she has comprehended. Long Yu was a little curious. If it wasn't for something like the absolute beginning gold pond, it would be extremely difficult to comprehend the metal-type absolute beginning power. Even a demigod expert would need to spend a very long time to do so. But with the absolute beginning gold pond, everything became very simple. Concubine Yu's figure finally appeared in everyone's expectation. A seductive figure with a celestial aura gradually appeared from the white light in the core of the divine palace. It was concubine Yu who walked out of the golden pool of absolute beginning. I feel that something big has happened outside, but I don't know what it is. Consort Yu asked a little embarrassedly as soon as she came out. This absolute beginning goal pond can't let me out even after less than a month. I really didn't expect it. Hearing her words, everyone felt relieved. Like I said, there's such a big commotion outside. How could you not know? So the absolute beginning goal pond has restrictions on entry and exit. Little White said in a low voice. But I don't know if our current situation is good or bad. Consort Yu, come out and see if you know where we are. This was the reason why everyone was waiting for Consort Yu to come out. But to be honest, they didn't have much hope that Consort Yu would be able to see where they were. After all, it was a completely empty void with a radius of who knew how many millions of miles. Chapter 1335. Consort Yu followed the group to the primordial alien tribe's ruins. As soon as they arrived at this empty space, Consort Yu felt a sense of familiarity. Wasn't this place the same as the void galaxy that she had accidentally arrived at previously? Then, Consort Yu called out Diaofeng and Si Yuan Bai, who had been in her small world. These two were members of the Ghost Shadow Division of the Consort Yu clan and had been following her. Now that they had come out, they were shocked to see their surroundings. Why are we back here again? This place should be a void galaxy, but I'm not sure if it's the place we've been to before. Since there's not a bit of heaven and earth spirit chi or any energy aura in the surroundings, it must be the void galaxy. Consort Yu turned around and glanced at the spatial vortex that was connected to the primordial alien tribe's ruins. She frowned slightly. The void galaxy we've been to before didn't have such a spatial vortex. We've been to almost all of them, Diaofeng and Si Yuan Bai said in a deep voice. Maybe it's another one. We just don't know where it is. But if that's the case, we can make the multi-wing clan's primordial alien tribe's ruins our backyard. Consort Yu smiled and said optimistically, there should be other divine relics in this void galaxy. We can find them and use them to leave this void galaxy. That's right. The divine relics are the keys to travel through this void galaxy. Without the divine relics, no one can come to this void galaxy. In other words, we're basically completely safe. Si Yuan Bai turned around and said to Long Yu with a smile, there's a problem. Since there are different void galaxies, there should be divine relics in other void galaxies, right? Can other people's divine relics be used to travel through our void galaxy? Long Yu said with a slight frown. If we could gather all 7 fragments, we wouldn't have to think about this problem anymore. We found 3 fragments in the void galaxy, but we also found 7 places that looked like formation cores. Yu Fei shook her head and said, from the placement of these 7 formation eyes, I can see that they are some kind of defensive barrier. They probably need 7 pieces of the miracle shard to activate. We can split up now and each choose a direction to look for the shard. The more, the better. What does the miracle fragment look like? Long Yu's heart jolted as he asked. I see. Consort Yu raised her hand and took out a paper-like object from her pocket dimension. The paper was engraved with mysterious patterns. However, it wasn't a real piece of paper. She didn't know what it was made of, but it gave off an ancient feeling. The strange thing was that when this piece of paper appeared in front of everyone, they couldn't detect it with their spiritual senses at all. From the looks of it, it would be very difficult to find this thing in the boundless void, however. Long Yu's lips curled up and he chuckled. I've found one. What? Everyone looked up at him in disbelief. Xiao Bai was the first to react. She snapped her fingers and said, it seems that the hunters of the 9 nether you sent out just now have something on their minds. Not bad, not bad. Yes, I'll ask the hunters of the 9 nether to bring it back now. Long Yu nodded and said, in that case, let's split up and search. We shouldn't run into any danger. We just need to be careful at all times. It'll take about a month to search the entire void galaxy. There's 7 of us here, so it'll only take 4 days if we search together. Consort Yu said as she glanced at everyone. Qing Feng and Tianlei can help too. They're trustworthy. Long Yu, however, shook his head and raised his hand to summon the 2 white feather demons. Apart from Qing Feng and Long Yu, who had lower cultivations, the others were able to search at a rapid pace with the 9 of them working together. Also, Long Yu could search with the hunters of the 9 nether, and the others had similar cloning methods. In that case, it would take them about 3 days to search the entire void galaxy. Very soon, they began to act. Apart from looking for the paper-like piece of the miraculous relic, they also needed to look for the 7 places that consort you had mentioned. They searched very hard because it might become their base camp in the future. With the protection of the defense barrier triggered by the piece of the miraculous relic, even the demigods might not be able to enter. At the center was the ancient alien relic of the multi-winged race. The primordial gold pool at the center of the temple was the foundation of their development. For a force, it was definitely a core existence. Even if some powerful beings broke through the defense barrier created by the piece of the miraculous relic, they still had the body of the Dragon of Tartarus as their trump card in the ancient alien relic. Although Jitao was suppressing the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race in the ancient alien relic, it should be possible to ask Jitao to leave the statue alone if anything went wrong. In that case, the body of the Dragon of Tartarus would be controlled by Jitao to leave the ancient alien relic and come to the Void Galaxy. In that case, as long as the specific location of the Void Galaxy was not too strange, the place would almost completely belong to Long Yu and the rest of them. It would not be an exaggeration to call it a backyard. Speaking of which, such things are not rare. I heard that there are a few void galaxies like this in the demon and human territories, but they have all been occupied by certain forces. For example, the headquarters of the Sufferers Alliance is located in one of the void galaxies. Xiao Bai shook his head and said, "It's a pity that it's too difficult for outsiders to obtain such information. I've only heard a little about it. If we can really obtain this void galaxy now, we'll be very lucky. Together with the primordial gold pool, we might really be able to create a force. In that case, we won't be short of cultivation resources at all. When the time comes, we'll directly release the news that we have the primordial gold pool, and outsiders who want to enter the primordial gold pool will have to pay a sufficient price." Shui Luo's eyes narrowed into crescent moons. Wouldn't that mean that money is rolling in? We only need to wait, and we'll have countless cultivation resources. Stop dreaming. Let's find the piece of the miraculous relic first. Red Oriole snorted, then followed Long Yu and left in all directions. Everyone split up to search for the miraculous relic. Moving together was very fast, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Long Yu did not find anything apart from the 9 nether hunter that had found a miraculous relic at the beginning. This was purely a matter of luck. Everyone was responsible for spreading out in one direction, and it just so happened that Long Yu only had one miraculous relic. 3 days later, everyone gathered near the space vortex of the ancient foreign tribe ruins. After a brief discussion, everyone was happy. There were as many as 9 miraculous relic in this void galaxy. On average, everyone had found one. Moreover, they had found a total of 12 places that were similar to the formation eyes. In addition to the 3 miraculous relic consort you had previously obtained, the number was actually just right. The defensive barrier formed by the 12 formation eyes would definitely be much stronger than the defensive barrier formed by the 7 formation eyes. It might even be several times stronger. Once it was activated, this place would be truly impregnable. Unless one possessed the 12 miraculous relic, no one else would be able to pass through this defensive barrier. Now that we've found enough miraculous relic and the 12 formation eyes, we still need to figure out the specific location of this void galaxy. If we're surrounded by the foreign tribe's territories, then the situation is too bad. It's not suitable for us to stay for long. Consort, you said. That's right. Consort you. Didn't you say that you found a void galaxy between the human and demon territories? Shui Luo nodded, his eyes flashing with excitement. If the location is not good, then we'll find a way to return to the human and demon territories. We'll go to the void galaxy you've been to and activate the defensive barrier to make it our base camp. In that case, we can't take the ancient foreign tribe ruins with us. The others glanced at the space vortex of the ancient foreign tribe ruins. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Let's leave this place first and see where this void galaxy is in the macro world. Consort Yu shook her head. She did not think too much about other things and focused on figuring out the current situation. The others agreed and gathered together, heading towards the edge of the void galaxy. After 3 days of exploration, they had figured out the entire void galaxy situation. This place had a circumference of 1 trillion miles, which was a rather large territory. The Nine Serenities realm was only 100 billion miles in circumference. This void galaxy was 10 times longer than the Nine Serenities realm. Most of these places were spherical, so in terms of volume, this void galaxy was 1,000 times the size of the Nine Serenities realm. This place was more than enough for them to use as a base for further development. The main reason was because of the existence of the absolute beginning golden pond, which made everyone reluctant to leave. Although they did not make any agreements, in reality, they had already made plans to continue developing here and then split the benefits equally. No one was stupid enough to sell the absolute beginning gold pond. Even if they wanted to sell it, they had to first figure out the Void Galaxy's location. The Void Spirit Dragon Blade flashed continuously, using the water element absolute beginning power to travel through space. It took them more than a day to reach the nearest edge of the Void Galaxy. Then, with the divine remains in their hands, they opened the outermost barrier of the Void Galaxy and stepped out of the Void Galaxy for the first time. Chapter 1336. In an inconspicuous place in the tranquil void, a small group of people suddenly showed up. None of the living creatures noticed them. They were exactly Long Yu, Consort Yu, and the others. After collecting all the pieces of the miraculous relic, they left the galaxy together and came to the outside world, try to figure out where exactly the galaxy was located. In the void, without any hindrance, after Long Yu enhanced Consort Yu with the light of equalization. Consort Yu's spiritual senses could detect the situation within millions of kilometers. This detection range could be said to be very far, but in the great world, this range was still not worth mentioning. How is it? Has anyone sensed the aura of the space-time mark? Concubine Yu turned around and asked the crowd. Little White, Shuel Luo, Red Oriole, and Lei Tianlei all had a lot of space-time marks on them that could teleport them to a specific location. For example, Red Oriole had the space-time marks of the Blood-Fallen Planet, the Blood Demon Galaxy, and the Battlecruiser Fortress. As long as she sensed the aura of the space-time mark, she would be teleported immediately. However, their answers disappointed Consort Yu, because even though Little White, Shuel Luo, Red Oriole, and Lei Tianlei worked together, none of them sensed the aura of the space-time mark. Consort Yu herself came from the territory of human beings. She had stored the space-time marks of many places in the human territory. Earlier, when she just came out of the galaxy, she sensed the aura of one of the human territories and was teleported there. But this time, none of them sensed anything. It meant that they were at least one domain away from the territory of human beings and demons. It was very likely that they were deep in the battlefield of the alien races, or even in the territory of other alien races. They did not dare to move recklessly. It was not unusual that the aura of the space-time mark could not reach them in the galaxy. But now that they had left the galaxy and were in the outside world, if they still could not sense the aura of the space-time mark, it could only be a problem of distance. Looks like it's still hard to determine our position. What do we do now? Everyone felt that this was a difficult decision, so they turned to look at Consort Yu, wanting to let Consort Yu make the decision. Of course, Consort Yu didn't know what to do. But one thing was for sure, and that was that they definitely couldn't run around in such an unknown place. Otherwise, if they were to recklessly encounter some foreign race experts or foreign race patrolling troops, then their existence would be exposed, and they would be faced with great danger. If they wanted to develop, it was best to develop secretly and not let anyone notice. In other words, it was best to hide it from a human clan and the demon clan. Then, it will be a little difficult to find out where this place is. If I want to find others, I have to take the risk of being discovered by others. How difficult? Bai sighed with emotion. Even though they had Consort Yu, who was a peak 7th-stage sovereign, and Bai, who was a 6th-stage sovereign, they still wouldn't have an overwhelming advantage if they encountered any foreign race patrolling troops. At the very least, they would definitely have time to contact the foreign race headquarters and inform them of the situation here. If that happened, everyone would not be able to live in peace. In 3 months, Red Oriole and I will head to the Demigod Institute. Senior Consort Yu, is that Demigod Institute worth going to? Long Yu suddenly frowned and asked Consort Yu. In the Demigod Institute, there are some good experiences and there are quite a lot of cultivation resources. If nothing goes wrong, it is considered the best cultivation organization in the human clan and the demon clan's territory. Concubine, you spoke the truth. If we can return, it would be better for you and Red Oriole to gain some experience. Now, it seems that the only way to leave this place is to awaken the remnant soul of the little girl and let the 9 underworld's dragon's body open a space-time passageway. The way to open a space-time tunnel was relatively simple. As long as one knew the spatial imprint information of the destination in the outside world, one could directly break the world barrier and build a space-time tunnel connecting the 2 places by gathering power. As for the spatial imprint information of the human clan and the demon clan's territory, everyone had many space-time imprints on them, so it was very easy to obtain them. As long as one had enough power, they would be able to break the world barrier and build a space-time tunnel. This was something only demigod experts could do. If everyone wanted to do this, they could only rely on the 9 underworld dragon's body. But right now, the 9 underworld dragon's body is suppressing the stone statue of the multi-winged race. If we leave and the stone statue is unsealed, I don't know what will happen, Long Yu sighed. The most important thing was that the space swirl from the ancient alien ruins to the void galaxy was still on the body of the stone statue. No one knew what would happen if the stone statue was left alone. Then let's cultivate here first. We have the cultivation resources anyway. This time, we got a lot of heavenly crystals from the ancient alien ruins. It's enough for us to cultivate for 2 to 3 months, Shualuo said solemnly. As for Long Yu and my sister, if you want to go to the Demigod Institute when the time comes, we can think of another way. Maybe there will be a turn for the better. That's right. We can't waste time. Let's all cultivate. Also, we can soak in the Primordium Golden Pool. It's quite good for improving our strength. Consort Yu nodded with a smile. But we can't just cultivate like this. Then, under Consort Yu's suggestion, they started to set up some detection arrays around the periphery of the void galaxy, such as alchemy materials and weapon materials. With Concubine Yu leading the way, she had secretly built some detection formations on those materials, and then threw them out of the void without any pattern. These materials didn't have any race markings. Even if the alien races found them, they wouldn't be able to tell who released them. As for the detection arrays, they couldn't be discovered by ordinary cultivators either. Of course, if a demigod of an alien race appeared, he would be able to discover the detection arrays, but he wouldn't be able to trace them to the void galaxy they were in. At this time, Long Yu's Dragon Blood Sacred painting came in handy again. He activated the Dragon Blood Sacred Wind painting and directly erased all the key deduction information on these materials. When the Geo Dragon Emperor was still alive, he must have used this method to erase all traces. It was indeed a very useful way to destroy corpses and evidence. Many materials floated out of the void galaxy without any pattern. There were 10 of them in total. Compared to the vast world, they were completely inconspicuous. However, if there were more of them, and the same force found these materials, they might be able to find something. Therefore, 10 materials floating out at the same time was enough for them for now. As long as they could obtain any information, it would be of great help to their current situation. After doing all this, they didn't take any more risks outside the void galaxy. Instead, they directly returned to the void galaxy with the miraculous fragment. Then, they started to occupy the place. Since they had the miraculous fragment and found the 12 array cores, they would be letting themselves down if they didn't take over this place. The best thing about this void galaxy was that it was empty. Everything was in a state of nothingness, and there were no chaotic forces present. This was very important for the development of a force. This was because if there were other things or forces here, there might be detection arrays, space-time marks, and so on left behind by other forces or races. During the development process, there would be many security risks. Developing their forces in the void galaxy meant that they had nothing to worry about. Moreover, no one knew how long it had been since anyone had come to this place. As long as they were careful, no one would be able to come here, even if they developed for hundreds of years. Long Yu, Red Oriole, Little White, Shuel Luo, and Consort, you could be said to be the founding members of this force. However, there were 12 miraculous fragments in total. Of course, the 5 of them couldn't take them all. Moreover, if they wanted to develop a force, it was not something that the 5 of them could handle. Therefore, Diao Feng, Si Yuan Bai, like thunder and like breeze came to help. Each of them took a miraculous fragment. The remaining 3 fragments were not given to anyone else. Instead, they gave them to Little White, Shuel Luo, and Consort Yu. After all, the 3 of them had the highest martial cultivation and were the strongest in the group. Each of them, taking 2 miraculous fragments, meant that they would have 2 rights to speak in the force that they were about to establish. Although no one said it out loud, the group still established some rules and regulations for the force that was about to be established. Everything was based on stability, security, and development. As for the people who would form the force, there was no need to say much. Everyone could choose to cultivate a few. There was never a lack of living beings from their respective realms. They only needed to go to their respective realms and choose some young people with enough cultivation talent. After a discussion, it was decided that Diao Feng and Si Yuan Bai would lead the people from the 9 Nether Clans Ghost Shadow Division. There were over 100 experts that were at least mid-level rulers, and they would form a patrol army. The experts of the Ghost Shadow Division were very fast and good at hiding. Therefore, it was the best choice for them to patrol. Like Breeze and like Thunder decided to leave Long Yu's small world with 100,000 white feather monsters clan and live in the outside world. Although there was nothing in the Void Galaxy at the moment, and the living conditions were much worse than in Long Yu's small world, it was very easy for them to develop a place to live now that they had a stable base. Chapter 1337. The world of cultivation was cruel, but it was also free. For example, if Consort Yu, Long Yu, Little White, and the others did not want to return to the human race or the demon race's territory, they could stay in the Void Galaxy forever. They could even easily develop their own forces. The only ties they had were the family and friends they knew in the past. Consort Yu had left the Jiuyo clan, so she naturally had no family or friends. Shuel Luo, on the other hand, was a little worried about the Shuel Luo Legion on the Shuel Luo planet. The members of the Legion were all his subordinates, and he did not know how they were doing now. 3 months, it's almost 3 months. If I don't return after 3 months, there will definitely be some changes on the Shuel Luo planet. The Demon Race Army might make adjustments to the Shuel Luo Legion. Shuel Luo said to everyone in a deep voice, "So I have to go back in 3 months with Long Yu and my sister. They will go back to the Demigod College to train, and I will go back to settle everything. If you want to go back, you have to see if you can wake up Jitao. It's not something you can go back just because you want to." Red Oriole pursed her lips and said, "Yes, but we can only see when the time comes." Shuel Luo nodded in confusion. Of course, they could not try to wake Jitao in advance. Otherwise, if something happened, the ancient alien relic would very likely have a problem. At least in the next 3 months, everyone could develop and cultivate in peace for a period of time. This would be a very important period for Long Yu. Previously, Consort Yu had obtained a lot of heavenly crystal level creation items in the ancient alien relic, and now she finally had the time to distribute them to everyone. Just Long Yu alone had obtained 3 heavenly crystal level creation items, all of which were 3rd grade heavenly crystal level, worth 15 million battlefield merit points. The creation items obtained by the others were about the same value. After all, they were supposed to be divided among the 11 people, but now only the 5 of them are left. After obtaining the items of creation, Long Yu did not absorb the power of creation directly. Instead, he returned to the space inside the 9 Hell Tablet to comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Hell Divine text. He had too many things to do, but too little time. Currently, the comprehension of the Revelation Level 9th Nether Divine text was the best way to improve his strength, so he had to spend time on it first. As for the absorption of the power of creation, he had just stepped into the ruler's secret realm. It was better for him to familiarize himself with the power he had now. When Long Yu entered the 9 Underworld's prison tablet to comprehend the 9 Underworld's divine text, Consort Yu naturally entered as well. For Consort Yu, there weren't many areas where she could improve. At the very least, it was difficult for her to improve her martial arts realm. In that case, all that was left was to completely comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. Therefore, Long Yu and Consort Yu sat together in the space inside the 9 Hell Tablet, absorbing the sticky Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. They could see each other as soon as they opened their eyes. In the end, I still got the chance to enter the 9 Hell Tablet and comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. It's a pity that I didn't think that this would happen. Consort Yu said to Long Yu with a smile. There was a hint of emotion in her eyes. Isn't this a good situation? Other than the fact that it's a little difficult to go back and we don't know where we are, everything is quite good. Long Yu nodded and said with a smile, let's see if the detection formation on the materials we release can find anything. In a few days, those materials should be able to travel hundreds of billions of miles. Consort Yu was looking forward to it. It wasn't just her. Long Yu also wanted to know what was around this galaxy. The entire galaxy had a radius of 1 trillion miles. If there were other things around, according to the distance ratio, they would have to fly at least a few trillion miles before they could encounter them. Otherwise, this galaxy would have been discovered by others long ago. There must be an extremely vast space in the void, which was why the galaxy was hidden until now. The materials used to build the detection formation didn't move very quickly. After all, they had to give the surrounding living beings a feeling that it was natural. There couldn't be any signs of human activity that would make those living beings suspicious. The detection materials could travel about 40 to 50 billion miles every day. Even after 3 months, they would only travel about 40 to 50,000 miles. It wasn't particularly far from the galaxy. For the crowd, they could travel about 300 to 400 billion miles every day by teleporting. Long Yu could also do that with the Void Nether Dragon Blade. However, it was impossible for the detection materials to travel that fast. They couldn't teleport forward. If they did, other living beings or races would know that someone was controlling them. That wouldn't be good for the crowd. It was likely that there wouldn't be any news from the detection materials in the near future. Thus, Long Yu cultivated in peace and comprehended the Revelation Level Divine 9 Nether characters. Consort Yu did the same. The others had their own matters to attend to. For example, Tianlei and Qingfeng led the White Feather Monstrous Clan's 100,000 tribes out of Long Yu's small world and into the starry sky. In a secluded location, they found a vast space. In that space, the 100,000 White Feather Monstrous Clans worked together and soon built a White Feather Immortal City. The White Feather Immortal City occupied a vast area. It could accommodate at least 10 million living beings. This was the White Feather Monstrous Clan's preparations for the future. It would appear that they were planning to expand, like Tianlei and Qingfeng. The father and son each held a divine remnant fragment in their hands. They were able to enter and exit the galaxy freely. However, if it wasn't necessary, they would definitely not leave. No one would joke around with their lives. As for Tianlei and Qingfeng, they were people that Long Yu trusted a lot. Consort Yu and Lil Bai had also come into contact with them. They knew that they were reliable. That was why they handed over the divine remnant fragment. After settling down, The crowd's goal was to develop. It had been a very long time since Tianlei, Qing Feng, and the rest of the White Feather Monstrous clans had been able to develop in a stable environment. Ever since the White Feather Monstrous clan's chaos began, they had been living in constant fear. And now, they finally had their own territory. Furthermore, it was a place where no one would disturb them. The White Feather Monstrous clan's innate power was also metal-attributed primordial power. Thus, to the White Feather Monstrous clan, the core of the sacred temple was an excellent training ground. As such, Tianlei selected 5 young geniuses from his clan, including Qing Feng. They prepared to head to the core of the sacred temple to undergo the trial of the White Light's illusory space. If they passed the trial, they would be able to enter the primordial gold pond directly and obtain an excellent training opportunity. The trial's outcome was soon determined. Apart from Qing Feng, the other 4 geniuses were all defeated by their own illusion clones. They failed to enter the primordial gold pond. The outcome surprised many people. It would appear that the requirements to enter the primordial gold pond were quite high. At the very least, the challenge from the illusion clones was very difficult. That said, even though the 4 geniuses of the White Feather Monstrous clan had failed, they managed to obtain a lot of valuable experience, allowing them to realize another side of themselves. At times, they would even forget the abilities they possessed. However, when they challenged their own illusion clones in the illusory space, they were able to use those abilities to remind them which abilities were most effective in certain situations. The White Feather Monstrous clan's development was on the right track. On the other side were the members of the Ghost Shadow tribe, led by Jiao Feng and Si Yuanbai. The Ghost Shadow tribe had a total of 100 people. They had followed Consort Yu all the way here. They had even slaughtered hundreds of White Feather Monstrous clan, Golden Flood Dragon Monstrous clan, and 4 other Monstrous clan sovereigns' secret realm experts together with Consort Yu. Without a doubt, the combat prowess of the Ghost Shadow tribe's 100-plus people was extremely valiant. At the very least, they were at the middle-level ruler realm. The rest were also upper-level rulers. Even Jiao Fei and Si Yuanbai weren't far from the great ruler realm. In terms of individual combat strength, the Ghost Shadow tribe's members weren't too powerful. Even if they fought against Long Yu alone, they might not be able to defeat Long Yu. Not long ago, Jiao Feng and Si Yuanbai were existences that Long Yu could only look up to. However, now that Long Yu had become a low-level sovereign, it wasn't too much of a problem for him to challenge the 2 of them. However, the strength of the experts of the Ghost Shadow division was reflected in their powerful concealment ability. Even when compared to Long Yu's balanced control, the concealment ability of the Heart Shadow extermination wasn't the slightest bit inferior. In addition, the members of the Ghost Shadow tribe had all cultivated the formation of the 10,000 Ghost Purgatory. Even a great ruler would be completely trapped by it. It could be seen that in a real battle, the members of the Ghost Shadow tribe would be able to display a strength that far surpassed their martial cultivation. After arriving at the Void Galaxy and settling down, the Ghost Shadow tribe's members all began to cultivate. Apart from the usual 36 members that were required to patrol the entire Void Galaxy, the others also began to cultivate and increase their cultivation. The most important thing was the Sacred Palace's core. As long as the Ghost Shadow tribe's members wanted to, they could go to the Sacred Palace's core and participate in the Illusory Realms test. Surprisingly, the Ghost Shadow tribe's members passed the test much more than the White Feather Beast clan's members. It was more than half. In other words, if 10 people participated in the Illusory Realms test, at least 5 would pass and successfully enter the absolute beginning Golden Pond. The crowd knew the reason for this. The Ghost Shadow tribe's members had experienced far too many battles, so they were very familiar with their various techniques. They weren't like the young geniuses of the White Feather Beast clan, who hadn't experienced any great storms. Although the White Feather Beast clan's 100,000 clans had been driven out of the White Feather planet, the young geniuses didn't participate in any battles. They were merely fleeing for their lives. Thus, the so-called life and death battle experience was practically non-existent. Chapter 1338. The members of the Ghost Shadow tribe had a huge advantage over the others. As members of the Juyo tribe, they all had the 9 Underworld's dragon seal on their bodies. The 9 Underworld's dragon seal on their chests allowed them to completely absorb the power of the elixirs and creations they took. This ability was the same as Long Yu's. According to Consort Yu, only a few people in the Juyo tribe knew how to condense the 9 Underworld's dragon seal. Originally, the members of the Ghost Shadow tribe didn't have the 9 Underworld's dragon seal. However, after they followed her, she carved the 9 Underworld's dragon seal on their chests. Even the demigod experts couldn't do that. Some of the demigod experts couldn't even fully absorb the power of the pills themselves. This could only be said to be one of the heaven-defying abilities passed down by the Juyo Dragon Emperor. From this, it could be seen that the Juyo Dragon Emperor's strength definitely surpassed the current human race and monster race demigod experts. With the 9 Underworld's dragon seal, the speed at which the Ghost Shadow tribe's martial arts realm improved would at least double. Recently, many of them had stepped into the higher sovereign realm from the middle sovereign realm, and their strength improved significantly. The White Feather tribe's 100,000 tribes had a large population. Soon, they would become the core strength of the faction. However, there were only a dozen or so sovereign secret realm experts among them. For the time being, their overall strength couldn't compare to the Ghost Shadow tribe's 100,000 people. Moreover, as time passed, the Ghost Shadow tribe's speed of improvement would probably be much faster than the White Feather tribes. In any case, the White Feather tribe and the Ghost Shadow tribe were 2 important forces in the Void Galaxy in the future. As for the small worlds of Little White, Shuel Luo, Consort Yu, and the others, there weren't any powerful forces worth mentioning. In their small worlds, the strongest person was only at the level of 3 or 4-star Emperor. It was the same situation as the 9 Underworlds. Anyone who had the potential to reach the Sovereign Secret Realm would be sent out in advance. This would be much more beneficial to their cultivation, and it could also be considered as giving them a better future. Of course, this was not absolute. Inside Concubine Yu and White E's little worlds, there were experts from the Sovereign Secret Realm who refused to come out. They had chosen to die of old age in their little worlds, and it was their choice. Even if they were asked to come out now, they wouldn't be willing to do so. I don't want to pull my Emperor army over, but if that's the case, it will be hard to explain to the army on the battlefield with the Devil race. Sigh, we can only take it one step at a time. Shuel Luo felt somewhat regretful. Whitey, on the other hand, did not feel any pressure. This person had always been alone and had extraordinary survival abilities. He had entered and left the battlefield of the Outsiders 7 times and successfully survived. He didn't have anything to worry about and was a complete wanderer. He met Shuel Luo when he was traveling, so he was invited. He didn't expect to end up in the Void Galaxy. Whitey and Shuel Luo each had 2 pieces of the Divine Relic Shards. In fact, each of them only needed 1 shard. However, they didn't have anyone to entrust them with at the moment, so they kept it for themselves. As for White E's minor worlds, there were no powerful existences. To Whitey, its minor worlds were used to increase its strength, and it was reluctant to transfer the living beings in its minor worlds to the Void Galaxy. Because of that, only the White Feather Monstrous clan and the Ghostly Shadow tribe were present in the entire Void Galaxy. Thus, it could be said to be relatively peaceful. Since it was called the Void Galaxy, it was as vast as a galaxy. It wasn't much smaller than the Blood Demon Galaxy or the Iron Wall Galaxy. Whitey was the most relaxed among the group. The white-haired young man of the human race was roaming the Void Galaxy, absorbing the heavenly crystal-grade items at the same time. He was very comfortable, and his cultivation was rapidly approaching the 7th phase Sovereign Realm. He would soon break through and step into the same realm as Consort Yu. Everyone was cultivating. Whether it was to increase their cultivation realm or to comprehend divine characters of martial skills and divine abilities, they were all working hard to increase their strength. Long Yu's comprehension of the revelation level divine characters of a 9 Nether was getting deeper and deeper. However, the speed of his comprehension was getting slower and slower. This was normal. After all, it was not easy to completely comprehend the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether. The further one progressed, the slower the speed of comprehension. In the beginning, Long Yu could comprehend 10% of the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether in a month. However, from now on, it would take him 2 months to comprehend 10% more. This was the result of Long Yu skipping over the metal-type primordial energy. For example, Consort Yu, who was comprehending with him, was much faster than him. This was because Consort Yu had comprehended a lot of metal-type primordial energy in the previous month. As a result, the speed of her comprehension of the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether had also increased. Therefore, although Long Yu had comprehended more of the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether than Consort Yu, after 3 months, their comprehension of the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether would be about the same, and Long Yu would be overtaken by Consort Yu. Under such circumstances, Long Yu was a little puzzled. However, he also understood that he could not rush. Anyway, there was still a lot of time to cultivate, so there was no need to rush. Compared to Consort Yu, the biggest gap between him and Consort Yu was not in the speed of comprehending the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether, but in the realm of martial arts. In terms of cultivation, the disparity between the two of them could be said to be as wide as the heavens and the earth. If they were to really fight, Yu Fei would be able to crush Long Yu with a single finger. After all, Yu Fei's basic strength was many times stronger than Long Yu's. If she wanted to teach Long Yu a lesson, it would be much easier than a father beating his son. This was also because Long Yu had a lot of special methods and powerful auxiliary abilities, which allowed him to stay with powerhouses who were beyond his realm of martial arts. When his realm of martial arts improved, he would really be able to exert his combat power in such a team. 2 months later, Long Yu finally comprehended 30% of the revelation-level divine characters of the Nine Nether, and his progress was still faster than Consort Yu's. At this time, the scouting materials they sent out finally began to send back some useful information. In the first direction, that scouting material encountered a patrol team of aliens. It did not attract too much attention, but it was directly destroyed by them. The spirit arrays that were used to detect materials were directly transmitted to Concubine Yu. Hence, when the incidents happened one after another, Concubine Yu gathered everyone and explained the situation. I have not seen that patrol team of aliens before, and it was only a small image of the ultra-long-range scouting formation. I can't show the image, so I can only describe it. As Concubine Yu spoke, she looked at Whitey and said, "The alien race isn't in a solid state. Each of them is a puddle of gray liquid, and there are many bubbles in the liquid. These bubbles should be controlling the alien race's survival, cultivation, and other senses." Xiao Bai, have you seen these aliens before? How big are their bodies? Xiao Bai was originally sloppy, but when he heard Consort Yu's words, he immediately quieted down. His face darkened as he asked a question. Seeing Xiao Bai's expression, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that these aliens are some kind of extremely difficult race to deal with? They are about the size of our fists. They look inconspicuous, but their individual strength is definitely not weak. Consort Yu described in a low voice. Don't be fooled by their small size, but they can destroy my scouting material in one move. To be able to do this, one has to be at least in the sovereign secret realm in the human or demonic beast race. In other words, any individual in that patrol team is from the sovereign secret realm. Xiao Bai's expression changed again. According to what you said, the fist-sized gray liquid alien is most likely from the divine water race. I've seen them in the jade slips that contain information about the alien races, but there isn't much information about them. The records say that the territory of the divine water race is 100 territories away from the human and demonic beast races, and there are 2 territories of the foreign races between them. Doesn't that mean we're in trouble? Everyone's faces darkened when they heard that. If the Void Galaxy was really near the territory of the divine water race, then it was a very dangerous location. It was definitely a terrible situation for everyone. This meant that the Void Galaxy was at least 100 territories away from the human or demonic beast race's territories. This was definitely a distance that was difficult to cross. The entire human territory was about 10 territories, and the demonic beast territory was about the same. If it was someone with consort use cultivation level, it would take her at least a year to cross a territory by relying on her own strength to teleport. After all, a territory was 100 million miles away. Previously, when Long Yu and Red Oriole traveled from the Iron Wall Galaxy to the third outer galaxy, the total distance was less than 2 territories. It was only a small part of the demonic beast territory, and they had to rely on the space-time imprint teleportation formation to reach it in a short time. Otherwise, it would have taken at least a few years. Each galaxy was not particularly vast, but the endless void between each galaxy was extremely vast. Without the space-time imprint teleportation formation, it would have taken at least a month to fly across each galaxy. For example, Concubine, you had flown all the way from the human race's territory to the demon race's Qi Ming, Celestial River, and White Feather Star, and it had taken her several months. It was definitely not a simple flight. No one had expected the Void Galaxy to be so far away from the territories of the human clan and the monster clan. 100 territories, in other words, this place was completely far away from the human and demonic beast territories, deep into the deep space world surrounded by the alien races. Chapter 1339. Hearing Little White's words, everyone's expressions darkened. But what made their expressions even worse was yet to come. Consort, you swept her gaze across the crowd and said indifferently, "Just one divine water race has scared you so much? What I need to tell you is that other than the divine water race, the materials I send out have already received images of at least 3 other races. Now, let me introduce the other 2 races. The first one should be the divine water race that Little White mentioned. They are a fist-sized race made of gray liquid. Their bodies have many blisters, which are the foundation of their cultivation. The second outsider is huge, like a mountain. It's 100 zhong tall, and every single one of them is made of silver stone. As for what kind of stone they are, I'm not sure. They look very bulky, but they're actually very agile. As soon as they discover my scouting materials, they flew hundreds of li away and destroyed them." Hearing Consort use words, everyone's expression changed again. Another foreign race they had never seen before. Little White stretched and curled her lips. This is the Silverstone race. According to the records, the Silverstone race's physical defense is very strong, and each individual's strength far surpasses human and Yao cultivators of the same realm. Compared to the Abyss race, which has a metal body, they can easily suppress the Abyss race. All right, the Silverstone race, the Divine Water race, and what other foreign races are there? Tell me all of them. Shui Luo's expression darkened as he asked Consort Yu. There is also the Soul race that everyone is familiar with. Yu Fei said softly, "Of course, the Soul race isn't easy to deal with, at least to us. However, compared to the Silverstone race and the Divine Water race, the Soul race's territory is adjacent to the Demon race's territory. The only thing between them is the foreign race's battlefield. So, the Soul race is indeed the race we're most familiar with among the foreign races around us." Damn, it's the Soul race? Shui Luo's expression darkened even more. He had led the Emperor Corps to fight on the battlefield of the foreign races for a long time. Of course, he knew how difficult the Soul race was to deal with. Hearing this, Long Yu was a little surprised. He didn't expect this part of the galaxy to be near the Soul race's territory. Are there other foreign races? Red Oriole asked. No, it's just these 3. I can see that we're probably at the border of these 3 races' territories. However, the strange thing is that these 3 races haven't started a war with each other. The situation isn't as intense as the battlefield with the foreign races. Consort Yu shook her head and said, "Maybe it's just a temporary truce. After all, the situation in the deep space world is too complicated. Every race's territory is surrounded by other races, and fighting on multiple fronts must be very difficult. With both sides in a tense situation, A temporary truce for thousands of years is normal. Xiaobai said in a low voice, "Consort you. These foreign races that you discovered should have been sent by the 3 races to patrol this area. Normally, they wouldn't come to us. In a truce, they would be more restrained. I just don't know how long they've been fighting each other. The longer the truce, the better it is for us, because it means that their patrol has become a daily thing to kill time, and we don't have to worry so much about the alien invasion." Shuai Luo nodded. At least, the situation seems to be stable for now. However, if we were to develop in the future, would we really have to stay in such a dangerous place? Seemingly, Tianlei felt conflicted. As the chief of the White Feather Monsters clan, he was currently leading 100,000 White Feather Monsters clansmen. Thus, he had a great sense of responsibility and had to think of his clansmen in everything. Even if we want to return, would you be willing to part with the primordial gold pond in the core of the sacred palace? Consort, you looked at seemingly Tianlei with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. Not bad, father. Seemingly Qing Feng patted his father's shoulder and said, I feel that this place is pretty good. The primordial gold pond has greatly increased my comprehension of metal-attributed primordial energy. If this continues, I'll be able to fully comprehend it in a year at most. It'll be very beneficial to our clan. In a short period of time, those foreign races definitely won't notice us. Moreover, we've already discussed the issue of safety. With the defensive barrier formed by the miracle shard and the physical body of the 9 underworlds dragon controlled by Ji Tao, even if we encounter any danger, we'll definitely be able to escape in time. Long Yu nodded. He had never been afraid of anything. Now that he had encountered something like this, it had instead stimulated Long Yu's competitive spirit. Even if they were surrounded by foreign races, so what? Long Yu, could still survive. Moreover, now that Long Yu had experienced the primordial alien relics of the multi-winged clan, he clearly knew that humans and demons basically lived in a remote corner of the great world. They were poor in resources and weak. Although he was a human himself, he still had to admit this fact. Even the best genius training organization, the Demigod Academy, could barely produce even 1 demigod every 100 years. Compared to the over 100 demigod coffins they had seen in the sacred palace of the multi-winged clan, the gap was simply too huge. Therefore, Long Yu yearned to explore and excavate deeper into the great world. Now, the Void of Stars was a chance for him. Red Oriole, Concubine Yu, and Little White had the same idea as him. Perhaps it could be said that most people would have the same idea after experiencing the primordial outsider ruins. However, Thunder was rather old, so he had stayed in the territories of humans and demons for too long. He had never thought of leaving the territories of humans and demons, so he couldn't quite accept this fact now. Our biggest inconvenience right now is that we can't easily travel between the Void Galaxy and the territories of demons. We can only rely on the 9 underworlds dragon's body, but even we aren't 100% sure that this method will work. Consort, you glanced at Thunder. Even if it works, we can't always open the space-time tunnel and go back. So after a while, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Shuai Luo will go back. If you want to go back, you can come with them. However, you have to give the divine remnant to us for safekeeping. Okay, I understand. Thunder nodded with a grave expression. He was rather apprehensive about the environment of the foreign races. Most importantly, there were still his clansmen here. Although Thunder had experienced being ostracized and oppressed by the core members of the White Feather Monsters clan, and had even been expelled from the White Feather Monsters clan, he was still a member of the Monsters clan. He had never come into contact with too many foreign races, nor had he killed any of them. Thus, his impression of the foreign races had always remained at the level of how terrifying the rumors were. Even though he had experienced a lot by following Long Yu, he had never personally witnessed them. He had only heard about them. Naturally, they would not leave a deep impression on him. The only thing we can do in the Void Galaxy is to hide and develop ourselves. If we attract the attention of any of the foreign races, the Void Galaxy will likely fall. Long Yu said, even if we escape through the space-time tunnel, it's very possible that we'll implicate the humans and monstrous beasts. Judging from the current situation, the territory of the Soul Clan is likely over 100 regions. 10 times larger than the territories of the humans and monstrous beasts. I don't think anything good will happen to us if we lure the Soul Clan into the monstrous beast territory. That's right. We just need to be careful. However, according to the legends, the Void Galaxy is a space of nothingness related to gods. There are fragments of divine vestiges here. Consort, you smiled and comforted them. Everyone, you don't need to be too nervous. As long as we don't leave the Void Galaxy, it will be very difficult to discover the existence of the Void Galaxy from the outside world. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the foreign races to occupy this place for so long. Her words made sense. The crowd finally heaved a sigh of relief. To put it simply, we'll treat this place as our secret back garden. We'll have a cultivation resource like the primordial gold pond. However, this back garden is rather far away, so it'll be difficult for us to return to the monstrous beast territory. That'll do, Lil White said in a relaxed manner. Even though she knew they were surrounded by the foreign races, she did not feel any psychological burden. I didn't expect to come to the deep space galaxy just like that. I haven't even prepared myself yet. Shuel Luo scratched his head. There was still some excitement in his eyes. The deep space galaxy was a term used in the monstrous beasts and human territories. However, very few people would say it out loud because it was too far away from the common people. The deep space galaxy was a macro world that was extremely far away from the human and monstrous beast territories. The monstrous beasts and humans roughly knew that it was surrounded by the foreign races. However, they did not know the details. In the surrounding 100 or so territories, such as the Divine Water Race and the Silverstone Race, there were people who had come to the deep space and left corresponding records. However, in places that were even further away, there were no records in the Jade Scrolls. According to the records about the alien races that Whitey had read, there were over 100 alien races, but that was all the alien races around the territories of the human race and the demon race, and that was only the situation within 100 territories. Who knew how vast the deep space galaxy was? No one knew. The Sufferers Alliance. This organization seems to be the only connection between the human and monstrous beasts and the deep space galaxy. However, for a long time, no members of the Sufferers Alliance have come to the human and monstrous beast territories. As long as you thought about it, he contacted the Sufferer Alchemist who was imprisoned in the Geo Dragon Emperor's pocket world. If his strength could reach the level of Geo Dragon Emperor, he would be able to travel around the deep space galaxy, which was surrounded by the foreign races. The human and monstrous beasts must have never had such a person before. However, Long Yu was looking forward to it very much. Since he had come to this world, how could he not try to reach the peak? Chapter 1340. After listening to Yu Fei's words, everyone was a little puzzled. However, they were also a little excited in the depths of their hearts. The deep space. Even the demigods of the human race and the demon race could not come to the deep space so easily, not to mention the others. In other words, among the human race and the demon race, they were definitely the few who could settle down in the deep space. In any case, the Void Galaxy was a relatively safe place, so they were not too worried. Then, they began to prepare to wake up Ji Tao. Because the 3 months were almost up, Long Yu and Red Oriole had to return to the demon territory to join the Demigod College for some training. Then, Shuel Luo had to go back and make arrangements for the subordinates of the Emperor's army on planet Shuel Luo. They would either be dismissed and sent back to the Blood Demon Galaxy or follow him to the Void Galaxy. As for Consort Yu, she would not leave. After all, she was the strongest among them, and she had to stay and guard the Void Galaxy. Then, Consort Yu gave all the resources she had obtained from the ancient alien relics, such as the primordial golden crystals and the demigod corpses, to Long Yu, so that Long Yu and Red Oriole could exchange them for training resources and bring them to the Void Galaxy. Of course, Long Yu had no objection. However, it would probably take a long time for them to come back. After all, it would take at least a year or two to complete the training in the Demigod College. Xiaobai also planned to go back, because he didn't have enough cultivation resources here. After returning, he planned to bring a large amount of cultivation resources to the Void Star River to cultivate in peace. At the very least, he wanted to raise his cultivation to the 7th phase Great Ruler level. In this way, there were 4 people who were going back: Long Yu, Red Oriole, Shuel Luo, and Little White. In order to send them back, what they had to do now was to wake up the remnant soul of Ji Tao. After that, it was very likely that the demigod statue of the multi-winged race would be unsealed and go on a rampage. However, there was no other way. Give it a try. They could not stay in the Void Galaxy forever. No matter what, they could not cut off contact with the demon race and the human race. Although they had come to the deep space world to develop, they did not want the Void Galaxy to become an isolated island. The responsibility of awakening Ji Tao fell on Long Yu's shoulders. Because Ji Tao controlled the body of the Juyo Dragon Emperor, she could communicate with Long Yu through spiritual will. This was the most convenient method of communication. Everyone else left the ancient outsider ruins in the Starry River. Long Yu was the only one who returned to the relics of the primeval alien species and hid in the core of the temple. After all, the core of the temple was protected by more than 10 layers of defense barriers with the divine symbols of the Netherworld. Even if the demigod statue of the multi-winged clan was unsealed and went berserk, his safety would be guaranteed. Right now, there are still many members of the Ghost Shadow tribe training in the core of the sacred temple. I hope I won't disturb them, Long Yu thought to himself. Then, he closed his eyes to rest and began to transmit his spiritual will to the body of the dragon of the Netherworld through the ball of Netherworld at the entrance of the core of the sacred temple. When the tablet of Netherworld swallowed the entire Netherworld realm and condensed it into the ball of Netherworld, Long Yu no longer had the mark of Netherworld. Instead, the ball of Netherworld still had some connection with the body of the dragon of the Netherworld. Ji Tao, wake up. I have a favor to ask of you. Please wake up. Over and over again, Long Yu sent out his divine sense to the body of the 9 underworld's dragon. At the start, Long Yu did not receive any response. However, as he sent out his divine sense over and over again, he seemed to receive a little response. This is Ji Tao's remnant soul seemed to be in a somewhat chaotic state. It sounded dazed and did not seem to understand its current situation. Long Yu explained with his spiritual will over and over again. Hearing that Ji Tao's remnant soul was becoming more and more awake, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that he could not wake Ji Tao up. In that case, their plan to return to the Demon Clan's territory would be ruined. Fortunately, Ji Tao was successfully awakened. Then, Long Yu told Ji Tao about the current situation that they were facing, which surprised Ji Tao. What? We're actually in the deep space world? Although Ji Tao was only left with a remnant soul, she had lived in the Demon Clan's territory 1,000 years ago and was a member of the Thunderfire Demon Clan. After all, she still had endless fear of the deep space world. However, seeing that Long Yu and the others were determined to set up camp here, she could not say much. She could only tell Long Yu about her current situation. It turned out that Ji Tao had completely suppressed the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race by relying on the body of the dragon of the Netherworld. Leaving for a while would not cause the stone statue to be unsealed. However, this kind of suppression required her to maintain it continuously. Simply put, the body of the dragon of the Netherworld could leave this place almost every 3 months, but within 3 days, it had to return to suppress the multi-winged stone statue. Otherwise, the stone statue would be unsealed and wreak havoc in the ruins of the ancient foreign races again. 3 days of free time every 3 months. That's not bad. I'm relieved. When Long Yu heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. But it's still hard on you. Could it be that you really can't destroy this stone statue? I can't do it. At least, I can't do it. Even though I'm controlling the body of the dragon of the Netherworld, I still feel that it's a little lacking. Ji Tao said dejectedly. How about this? Since you're free when suppressing the multi-winged stone statue, why don't you learn this ancient god-forbidden skill, the 4 aspects killing prison? This is something that even the Juyo Dragon Emperor could not learn before. You can try it. If you succeed, you'll definitely be able to destroy this multi-winged stone statue. Long Yu's heart moved, and he handed the ancient god-forbidden skill to her. To Long Yu, Ji Tao was definitely one of the people he could trust, because she was willing to stay behind to suppress the multi-winged stone statue. She had lost her freedom. How could Long Yu not trust someone who could do this? When Ji Tao heard this and received the cultivation method of the ancient god-forbidden skill for symbol killing prison, she was a little surprised. She never thought that there would be someone who would pay attention to her and even let her comprehend such a powerful move. One had to know that 1,000 years ago, she had never even heard of the ancient god-forbidden skill. But now, with just one look, she could tell that the level of this four symbols deathly prison was definitely much higher than some of the unbounded level ultimate skills. This made her heart palpitate. The days of suppressing the multi-winged stone statue were really too boring. She could only regain her freedom for 3 days every 3 months. Moreover, even if she regained her freedom, she would have to spend time to open a space-time tunnel for everyone. She didn't know how long it would take, but it would at least take a day or two. Originally, such days would be boring to death. But with the 4 aspects killing prison, she had more than enough things to do. Just this alone would take her a long time to comprehend. One must know that this was an ancient god-forbidden skill that even the Juyo Dragon Emperor could not learn. If Ji Tao wanted to learn it, it definitely wouldn't be something that could be done in a day or two. Since that's the case, I can leave now and open a space-time tunnel for you guys. Where do you need to locate me? Ji Tao asked Long Yu telepathically. We have the space-time seal of the Shui Luo star. We can directly return to the vicinity of the Shui Luo star. Long Yu replied telepathically. All right. Ji Tao agreed and prepared to leave this ancient outsider ruins. The body of the Tartarian dragon, the peak demigod level, and the toughness of his body made him one of the strongest existences in this world. At the very least, he could dominate the foreign gods, but nobody could do anything to him. Now, under Ji Tao's control, the body of the dragon of 9 underworlds came out of the ancient ruins and soared in the void galaxy. Everyone was watching from the side, and they were quite happy about it. Luckily, we can rest for 3 days every 3 months. Otherwise, who knows what kind of trouble the multi-winged stone statue would cause in the ancient ruins. Shui Luo said happily, You should be glad that you still have a chance to go back, and you can come back in the future. Little White chimed in. What Ji Tao said was true. Being able to return to the demon territory was the best news for them. According to Ji Tao, the space-time tunnel could be opened every 3 months. This was the time they needed to travel between the demon territory and the void galaxy. The interval was not too long, so it was acceptable for everyone. They were also grateful to Ji Tao for that. Everyone knew that Ji Tao needed to suppress the multi-winged stone statue for 3 consecutive months, and she also had to build a space-time tunnel for them during the 3 days of rest. If it were anyone else, they would probably feel resentful. Fortunately, Ji Tao had drifted in the tomb of the demon saint of Thunderfire for 1,000 years and had already developed a very strong character. Her patience was beyond imagination. For her, it was good enough that someone could chat with her. It was much more interesting than drifting in the tomb of the demon saint of Thunderfire for 1,000 years. Then, under everyone's gaze, Ji Tao began to control the body of the dragon of 9 underworlds and began to open a space-time tunnel for them. The space-time tunnel can last for 3 days. Little White, we should be able to finish it in 3 days, right? After 3 days, we can continue to come back through the space-time tunnel. I'll either come alone or bring my subordinates from the Shui Luo army. Shui Luo asked Little White. 3 days should be enough to go to the army on the battlefield to collect and exchange cultivation resources. But we need to be careful not to let others discover the space-time tunnel. Little White narrowed its eyes and said shrewdly, If a space-time tunnel appears in the 3rd outer domain galaxy, its aura will definitely spread far. If others know about it, the existence of our void galaxy will be exposed. Chapter 1341. Nobody dared to ignore Little White's concerns. If they couldn't hide the aura of the space-time tunnel, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble. However, Jitao sent a divine sense to Long Yu. Don't worry. With the power of the 9 Underworld's dragon's body, it's completely possible to open a space-time tunnel without anyone noticing. Moreover, it'll be able to hide for 3 days without emitting any aura. You could go back to work without worry. Long Yu was overjoyed. He told the others about it, and they all exclaimed that the dragon of Netherworld's body was really tough. The air of the space-time pathway is so intense that even a regular demigod can't cover it up. Earlier, when the Ice God clan intended to ambush the territory of the demons, they had to send vanguards over and set up an absolute ice array at great cost in order to cover the air of the space-time pathway, didn't they? Under the cover of the absolute ice matrix, the demon race didn't discover the space-time tunnel. Otherwise, the Ice God clan wouldn't have had such a good chance to sneak attack. Therefore, the dragon of Netherworld's body could directly hide the aura of the space-time tunnel, which was very surprising to everyone, but also very convenient. Under the control of Ji Tao's remnant soul, the dragon of Netherworld's body left the ancient alien relics of the multi-winged clan and came to the Void Galaxy. Then, with the space-time mark of the Shui Luo star, it began to locate the area in the territory of the demon race. In the big world, if one wanted to build a space-time tunnel, the further the distance, the thicker the space-time barrier would be. The Void Galaxy was at least 100 zones away from the Shui Luo star in the third outer galaxy. If it were a regular demigod, it would probably take more than 10 days or even half a month to break such a thick space-time barrier and create a space-time tunnel. But if it was given to the Dragon of Netherworld, it wouldn't take so much time at all. Only 1 day was more than enough. Under everyone's gazes, the Dragon of Netherworld's body kept gathering the power of the revelation-level divine language of Netherworld and bombarding the space-time barrier that people couldn't see. Only those who had reached the level of demigod could see the barrier of time and space. Therefore, even consort, you could not see anything wrong with it. However, after observing the physical body of the 9 Underworld's dragon for a day and sensing Ji Tao's current strength, everyone had a deeper understanding of how powerful the 9 Underworld's dragon was. Even 10 consort Yus wouldn't be a match for such a tyrannical dragon of the 9 Underworlds, and this was just the physical strength of the dragon of the 9 Underworlds. If the Juyo Dragon Emperor was at his peak, his strength would definitely be much stronger, to the point where it was unimaginable. After a day, the space-time tunnel was finally opened. The incomparably thick space-time barrier was easily broken by the 9 Underworld's dragon body controlled by Ji Tao. Then, a space-time tunnel was created that directly connected to the void not far from the fallen blood star. It's done. This space-time tunnel will last for 3 days. After 3 days, I'm going back to suppress the demigod stone statues of the multi-winged race. Therefore, those who want to leave and come back have to come back within 3 days. Ji Tao said to Long Yu, then every 3 months I can open a space-time tunnel at the same place for 3 days. At that time, if you want to go back and forth between the Void Galaxy and the territory of the demon race, you'll have to make good use of the time. No problem. Thank you very much. Long Yu was sincerely grateful to Ji Tao. After all, she was not obligated to do such a thing. It seemed that Ji Tao could indeed be trusted. Don't mention it. I have to thank you for bringing me out of that tomb. Otherwise, I would have been exiled there forever. Ji Tao said rather delightedly. Now that I've controlled the physical body of the Dragon of Netherworld, it's not a bad thing for me. Also, if I have the ability in the future, I might be able to completely destroy the stone statues of the multi-winged race. Then, I won't have to worry about anything, and I can also try to travel in the outside world. Okay, with regards to Ji Tao's dream, Long Yu naturally wouldn't obstruct it. To be honest, after experiencing 1,000 years of loneliness, Ji Tao didn't have any other pursuits. The only thing she wanted was to go to the deep space world. She wanted to see what kind of world existed beyond the territories of the human race and demon race. Of course, all of this was just a dream for her right now, a dream that she did not even dare to think about. Apart from the fact that the demigod stone statues of the multi-winged clan were restraining her, it was also because her body was the dragon of Tartarus. The physical body of the dragon of Netherworld was strong, but it was not invincible. Now, it took her almost all of her strength to suppress a demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race. It could be seen that there were definitely peak demigods, like the Geo Dragon Emperor, among the alien races. It was just that they did not know about them and had not seen them yet. Most importantly, the identity of the dragon of the 9 underworlds was indeed a little sensitive. As a powerful existence that had been killed by the gods a long time ago, the dragon of the 9 underworlds definitely had enemies everywhere, such as the foreign god race. The dragon emperor of the 9 underworlds had stolen all the foreign god race's holy relics. If news of the dragon of the 9 underworlds appeared now, it would definitely cause the entire foreign god race to be in an uproar, and they would use all their power to capture the dragon of the 9 underworlds. Therefore, for the time being, this could only be a dream for Ji Tao. When the space-time tunnel appeared, it was time for everyone to leave. A total of 4 people left: Little White, Shuel Luo, Red Oriole, and Long Yu. The others did not have any concerns in the territory of the demon race. Like Qing Feng and like Tian Lei, the White Feather Clan did not have any thoughts about the territory of the demon race. Even if they went back, where could they go? The Chiming Galaxy, planet White Feather, where the White Feather Clan was located, had long abandoned the 100,000 clans. Even if they were allowed to go back, it was impossible for them to go back. Now, it could be said that they had completely severed their relationship with the original White Feather Clan. By the way, when I go back this time, I will inform the Holy Emperor and the others about what happened here. If they want to come, they can come together, and we can develop together. Long Yu said to Consort Yu and the others. Everyone knew that Long Yu was talking about the group of people who came out of the Divine Battle World, including the Holy Emperor, Fenyu Exant, Shi Yingwu, and the others. Now that they were training on the battlefield on planet Shueluo, their strength should be improving quite quickly. No one had any objection to that. If they wanted to develop the Void Galaxy, the more people, the better. Of course, the more talented the people, the better. For example, the ordinary creatures in the small worlds could not be trusted, and they did not have enough talent. So, there is no need to drag them out to participate in the development of the Void Galaxy. After saying that, Long Yu and the other 3 flew towards the space-time passageway. In the eyes of Consort Yu and the others, the 4 of them soon entered the space-time tunnel and disappeared from the Void Galaxy. The Dragon of the 9 Serenities stayed at the entrance of the space-time tunnel and covered all the aura of the space-time tunnel. If they did not know about it, they would not have noticed that there was a space-time tunnel here. Even Consort Yu could not sense it. This was the strength of a peak demigod. Even someone like Consort Yu could not compare to it. In the space-time tunnel, this was the second time that Long Yu had entered the space-time tunnel. The first time, he had smelted the blade of the Void Nether Dragon into a divine quality absolute beginning weapon and made a great contribution to the Demon Clan. This time, he was leaving the deep space world and returning to the territory of the demon race. He was going to join the Demigod College for training. The different circumstances made Long Yu's state of mind completely different when he entered the space-time tunnel. There shouldn't be any fierce battles in this space-time tunnel, so the absolute beginning furnace won't appear. Long Yu felt that it was a bit of pity. If he still had the absolute beginning furnace, it would be a very good opportunity for him to improve. Unfortunately, the absolute beginning furnace's appearance required the convergence of at least tens of thousands of imperial emperors and sovereigns to be born. This level of power was not something that even demigods could create on their own initiative. Therefore, the appearance of the ancient beginning furnace was indeed extremely rare. In the entire demon race, only one demigod expert had encountered the ancient beginning furnace. Excluding those experts who were hidden in the dark, Long Yu was the second person to encounter the ancient beginning furnace. When I return, I will first summon the Emperor Legion on the Shueluo planet, and see what they will choose. Will they return to the Luo planet or follow me to battle? Of course, I will not tell them where I am going for now. I will consider whether or not to take them with me after they have made their decision. Luo said, I will directly go to the Legion to exchange for some training resources. Long Yu, Red Oriole, you two come with me. You have a lot of alien demigod corpses. They are too valuable. It will be bad if something happens to you if you go alone. Xiaobai smiled. Of course, if you want to exchange for enough training resources with so many valuable things, you have to go to the Legion headquarters in the third outer zone. It will take a long time to go there and back. You will have to rely on your first-class honor badge to save as much time as possible. Okay. Long Yu nodded his head. He thought to himself that this first-class honor badge had finally come in handy. The four of them walked through the space-time tunnel and soon reached the other end of the space-time tunnel. Their hearts, which had been tense for a long time, were somewhat relaxed at this moment. However, they still dared not to be careless. In this world, any accident could happen, not to mention something as advanced as the space-time tunnel. It was not impossible for them to encounter an accident when they left the exit. In a tense mood, the four of them stepped out of the space-time tunnel. The territory of the Demon Clan. We have finally come back alive. After stepping out of the space-time tunnel, Luo immediately recognized the environment. It was indeed the void near the Luo planet. He was finally relieved. Chapter 1342. The four heaved a sigh of relief after returning to the demon territory. Looking behind them, the exit of the space-time tunnel looked like a pitch-black hole, completely different from the colorful lights Long Yu had seen before. It seemed that the physical strength of the Dragon of 9 Underworlds under Ji Tao's control was indeed strong enough to conceal the aura of the space-time tunnel. This allowed them to completely relax and prepare to do their own things. I'll go gather my brothers first. You guys do as you please. Luo chuckled and disappeared in front of the three. He had used the spatial divine rune to teleport away. I understand why he's in such a hurry. After all, he hasn't returned for 3 months. Who knows what his Emperor army has become? If he doesn't return soon, I'm afraid the army will disband his Emperor army. Xiaobai said with a smile. All right, let him go. We have to go back to Luo planet first to see if my friends are there and leave them a message. Long Yu and Red Oriole looked at each other and nodded, then said to Xiaobai, Then I'll go with you. Whitey stretched herself and said with a faint smile, I'm waiting for your first-class honor badge. I can activate the space-time imprint teleportation array so that I can get to the third outer domain galaxy as soon as possible. Without a first-class honor badge, even an army commander like Luo would have to wait for the space-time imprint to activate. Although the waiting time would be much shorter, it was still necessary. In that case, it would take at least 1 day to reach the army headquarters in the third outer domain galaxy, and a round trip would take 2 days. By the time they returned, the space-time tunnel would have disappeared. They could only return after 3 months. Xiaobai didn't want to wait that long. Therefore, he planned to stay by Long Yu's side. That way, with a first-class honor badge, he wouldn't need to wait and could directly activate the space-time imprint to reach the third galaxy in 6 hours. Long Yu naturally didn't mind. With Whitey by his side, he could treat it as a free bodyguard. If anything happened, Whitey wouldn't sit idly by. After all, this fellow was a 6th-stage dominator. He wasn't far from reaching the peak of the 7th-stage sovereign realm. With Whitey by his side, his safety would definitely be guaranteed. After Luo left, the other three also set off, riding on the Nether Void Dragonblade. Xiaosu brought them to the nearby Bloodfall Star. The speed at which he traversed through the void was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the fallen Blood Star was within his field of vision. Very quickly, the three of them stopped at Sky Cliff City on Luo planet and went to the place where the people of Shenwu World were staying. This was a series of courtyards that were usually quiet, but today it seemed to be a bit rowdy. Not sure what was going on. Long Yu's group of 3 didn't immediately come out from the Nether Void Dragonblade. Instead, they rode on it and had Xiaosu turn into a blue streak of light, silently descending into this connected courtyard to observe the situation. However, what they saw was a group of people causing trouble here. This caused Long Yu to frown. It's only been 3 months, and Shui Luo hasn't returned for 3 months. Could it be that the Bloodfall star has already become chaotic? Yo, there are people causing trouble in the outer regions. This is quite rare. Little brother Long, are these your friends? Their talents aren't bad. Whitey squinted his eyes as he observed the situation in the courtyard, then commented. At this moment, Long Yu glanced over and saw that the people in the courtyard had faces full of anger as they argued with the group of people who had come to cause trouble. Not everyone was present, but many familiar faces were present. There were Feng Yusin, Feng Haofeng, and Feng Xiaofei, the 3 prodigies of the Feng family. In the entire Feng family, only the 3 of them had come to the outer regions to train. The others were still in the neo-martial world in Long Yu's miniature world. Aside from these 3, there were also Shi Yingwu, Yan Huan, and Mo Huan, a total of more than 10 people. However, against the 30 or so troublemakers, they were a bit powerless. Most importantly, even Sunset Dance, who had the highest cultivation in the group, was only a 6-star monarch. On the other hand, there were 3 experts in the Sovereign Secret Realm among the group that had come to cause trouble. Even though there were only 2 lesser Sovereign Realm and 1 Middle Sovereign Realm, it was still difficult for Shi Yingwu and the others to face head-on. After listening for a while, Long Yu finally understood. So this group of people were from the army of the planet next to Shui Luo's star. Because Shui Luo had not returned for 3 months, and someone had reported the death of Shui Luo and the others in the battlefield army. The battlefield army had already sent out an order to disband the Emperor army on Shui Luo's star. This also led to the distribution of the remaining resources on the Shui Luo planet to the neighboring Emperor army. This was decided by the people in the battlefield army. Because of this, many members of the battlefield army from the neighboring planet followed their respective army commanders to the Shui Luo planet to divide up their territories. Currently, the courtyard that Shi Yingwu and the others were in had a rather high-level cultivation formation. In addition, the location was vast and the environment was quiet. Therefore, the 30 or so people in front of them wanted to forcefully occupy it and make it their base. I didn't expect the higher-ups to give the order. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be like this. It can only be that someone reported Shui Luo's death, making the higher-ups believe that Shui Luo is dead. Little White narrowed his eyes. After understanding the situation, he started to think about the reason for this abnormal situation. Very quickly, he found the answer. In that case, it can only be the people in our group. When we wanted to escape from the alien ruins, weren't there a few people running at the front? And they even blew up the exit. Ba Xiong and Su Yuqing. I know these 2 people before. They shouldn't have done such a thing. Then it's most likely Dark Thunder and Maru Han. The reason why Dark Thunder and Maru Han were invited by Shui Luo to explore the alien ruins is because their planet is near the Shui Luo planet. In this way, after reporting Shui Luo's death, they can come and divide the cultivation resources on the Shui Luo planet. This kind of thing has happened many times in the past. Most importantly, no one would have any objections to dying in the ancient alien ruins, Little White said as he shook his head. Obviously, he didn't expect Dark Thunder and Maru Han to be such people. As he said this, Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He observed the 30 or so people in front of him. Indeed, they were from the same demon race as Dark Thunder. They were all members of the Thunder Lizard demon race. Dark Thunder was an expert of the Thunder Lizard demon race. The Emperor army he led was naturally from the Thunder Lizard demon race, just like how Shui Luo led the Blood demon race. This discovery made Long Yu feel a trace of disgust towards Dark Thunder. He was too lazy to find out who blew up the exit of the ancient alien ruins. But now, the other party actually wanted a yard after taking an inch, and wanted to occupy the Shui Luo planet and bully the original people on the Shui Luo planet. Such behavior, no matter who it was, would definitely be infuriated. We don't have much time. Let's directly deal with them. Long Yu said to Red Oriole and Little White, "Don't take me as your fighter. With just these 30 or so people, you alone are enough to deal with them." Little White raised his hands in surrender, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. He wasn't interested in helping Long Yu fight. However, what he said wasn't wrong. There was one middle-level dominator, two lower-level dominators, and the rest were between the 5-star Emperor to the 7-star Emperor level. Although they were one of the stronger squads of the Thunder Lizard Demon Race's Emperor army, they definitely didn't have the ability to resist Long Yu. Long Yu didn't have the time to play with these people. So, as soon as he understood the situation, he jumped out of the Nether Void Dragon Blade and appeared in front of everyone in the courtyard. Seeing Long Yu's figure, Shi Yingwu and the others were stunned. Then, a trace of surprise and joy appeared in their eyes. Without a doubt, they didn't expect Long Yu to appear in front of them at this time. Of course, the most important thing was that they didn't expect Long Yu to still be alive. 3 months ago, they received news that the entrance to the ancient foreign race's ruins had collapsed. Shueluo, Consort Yu, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and the others had all died inside. This news made Shi Yingwu and the others sad until now. They didn't expect to see Long Yu suddenly appear. This made them a little confused, wondering if they were hallucinating. However, what happened next made them realize that it wasn't an illusion. Long Yu was indeed still alive, and his strength seemed to have increased by quite a bit. Who is this guy? Seeing Long Yu appear, Shi Yingwu and the others' expressions changed drastically. The 30-plus Thunder Lizard Demon Race's Emperor Ruler experts were a little puzzled. Lower ruler of the human race. Brat, this matter has nothing to do with you. If you want to meddle in other people's business, you should first consider your own strength. The leader of the Thunder Lizards said in a low voice, "Us brothers have taken a liking to this courtyard. In any case, we are all part of the battlefield army. We will contribute to the battlefield army no matter where we go. Since Shueluo is dead, the resources of Shueluo planet cannot be wasted like this." What a pompous speech, but it's also quite reasonable. We are all part of the battlefield army, so it's the same no matter where we go. Since that's the case, you all should return to where you came from. Let me tell you something, Shueluo is not dead, and has returned. Long Yu walked over and faintly said to the 30 some monster race members of the Thunder Lizards. His eyes were focused on the body of the middle-level monster leader. These faint eyes and his words caused the complexions of the 30 some Thunder Lizards to change. Shueluo is not dead. This wasn't good news for them. Chapter 1343. The 30-odd Thunder Lizards panicked when they heard Long Yu's words. After all, if Shueluo hadn't died, they wouldn't have been able to obtain these benefits today. Who are you? Why have humans come to our monster race's territory? Although our two races coexist peacefully and cooperate with each other, there are some things that you humans can't meddle in. The leader of the Thunder Lizard Demon Race's mid-level sovereign realm had a fierce expression on his face as he spoke directly. I also live here. Do you think I can meddle in this? Long Yu found this a little funny. In any case, Shueluo has returned. This isn't a place where you can behave atrociously. After saying this, Long Yu felt that there was no point in saying so much nonsense. The other party definitely wouldn't retreat like this unless they believed that Shueluo had returned. As for Long Yu, rather than trying to convince the other party that Shueluo had returned, he might as well use his strength to speak. Right now, Long Yu's time was very precious. He had to resolve some matters within 3 days so that those who wanted to go to the Void Galaxy could be on their way. Therefore, there was no time for Long Yu to waste. Even in the outer domain galaxy, strength speaks. The stronger one is, the more resources they can occupy. The corners of the Thunder Lizard Demon Clan's mid-level ruler's lips curled upwards. Unfortunately, Long Yu didn't plan on giving him the chance to finish speaking. When Long Yu realized that he couldn't use words to force the other party to retreat, it was already decided that he would attack. It didn't matter when he attacked. Absolute Space Domain. Long Yu held the ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda in his hand and created an absolute space domain to prevent anyone from escaping. Then, the power of the 9 Nether Divine characters condensed in Long Yu's hand. He instantly used his first mystique, Hand of the 9 Nether. At this moment, the 9 Nether Divine characters that Long Yu had condensed contained 30% of the Revelation grade 9 Nether Divine characters. Its might had increased by 2 or 3 times, and the speed at which the 9 Nether Hand appeared had also increased. The other party was still speaking arrogantly, but he hadn't expected that Long Yu would actually dare to directly attack him. For a moment, he couldn't react in time. 5 white bony arms darted out of the void and directly wrapped around the mid-level ruler. Damn it, the mid-level juggernaut cursed. Since Long Yu had made a move, he couldn't just sit and wait for death. If you want to die, I'll grant your wish. The power of the Thunder Divine runes erupted. As a captain of the Emperor's Legion, this mid-level sovereign definitely had some strength. At the very least, when he erupted with power, he was actually able to blast away the 5/9 underworld hands. However, right after that, a streak of blue light instantly flew into the arena. It was the Netherworld Dragon Blade. With a thought from Long Yu, the Netherworld Dragon Blade directly flew over. Then, he condensed the water-type Genesis power and used the Void Burial technique. The tyrannical water-type Genesis power fused into a whirlpool and swept forward, enveloping all the thunder lizards within. The terrifying power pulled them in. What technique is this? It's actually the Genesis power? The mid-level sovereign among the thunder lizards paled. He had never imagined that Long Yu could actually use the Genesis power. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have fought against Long Yu at all. Wasn't this just seeking death? All of you, get in here! The mid-level sovereign shouted. He raised his hand, and the power of the world sucked all the other thunder lizards into his little world. This was because he was sure that his 30 subordinates would definitely not be able to resist Long Yu's Void Burial technique. As for himself, he stimulated the power of the Thunder Divine runes, using all of his strength to defend with all of his strength. When the Void Burial closed and was about to explode, the mid-level sovereign gritted his teeth. He couldn't guarantee that he would survive. However, no matter what, he couldn't admit defeat to Long Yu. All right, little Void, stop. Long Yu saw that the mid-level sovereign was gritting his teeth and transforming into his thunder lizard form. He gestured for little Void to stop. It was clear that the mid-level sovereign had already given up. He was just unwilling to admit defeat because of his pride. Since that was the case, there was no need to kill him. Long Yu didn't want to kill anyone from the battlefield army. No matter what, the battlefield army was worthy of respect. At the very least, they were very brave on the battlefield against the other races. The Void Burial technique was withdrawn before it could explode. The Netherworld Dragon Blade returned to Long Yu's side, but the ancient Dragonbone Pagoda was not withdrawn. It continued to maintain the absolute space domain. The mid-level sovereign of the Thunder Lizards was covered in cold sweat. Only when he saw this did he return to his human form. This, may I ask for your name? The middle-aged man in the form of a mid-level sovereign turned his head with great difficulty and asked Long Yu. Long Yu. Long Yu replied honestly, hurry up and leave. Shualuo came back with me. You can tell this news to your army. Also, let your army commander Dark Thunder know. Long Yu. The mid-level ruler was instantly stunned. He had naturally heard of this name before. This was the great hero of the previous battle against the Ice God race. This name had long since spread throughout the 3 great galaxies. If he had known earlier that this was Long Yu, he wouldn't have dared to attack Long Yu even if he was beaten to death. One had to know that Long Yu was a hero with a first-class honor badge. No matter what the reason was, attacking a first-class honor badge holder was disregarding the dignity of the battlefield army. This was serious enough to be considered as going against the entire battlefield army. When he thought of this, tears and snot almost flowed down the middle ruler's face. What was he doing? I'll go right now. I'll go tell our Lord Commander. The mid-level sovereign hurriedly said, then bowed to Long Yu. Not only because of the first-class honor badge, but also because Long Yu's casual void burial had the power to take his life. This made him feel respect for Long Yu. Take care. Only then did Long Yu put away the ancient Dragonbone Pagoda. Then, he watched as the mid-level sovereign turned into a streak of light and flew away. Then, Long Yu turned around and walked toward Shi Yingwu and the others in the courtyard. Fortunately, this group of thunder lizards didn't waste too much time. Long Yu was in a good mood. Big brother Long Yu. Seeing Long Yu walk over, someone finally couldn't hold back their emotions and ran towards Long Yu. It was the little girl, Shi Yingwu. Shi Yingwu threw herself into Long Yu's arms. Tears glistened in her eyes. I knew it. How could our big brother Long Yu die just like that? Those guys were indeed lying. Long Yu. The graceful Yin Huanma also walked over, looking at Long Yu with a joyful expression. Big brother Long. Feng Xiaofei and Feng Haofeng ran over quickly, their eyes filled with joy. As expected, Big brother Long is amazing. Every time you appear, you can always solve all problems. It just so happens that it's just a small team from the battlefield army. If their army commander was here, I'd have to call for help too. Long Yu chuckled as he spoke the truth. However, the others only thought that he was being humble. Big brother Long, where have you been all this time? We were all so worried about you. Sister-in-law, she must be fine too, right? Fenyu Xin walked over leisurely. This little girl had grown up to have a simple and elegant charm. Her voice was clear and melodious like that of an oriole. It was very pleasing to hear. To Fenyu Xin, the sister-in-law she mentioned was naturally Hong Ying. This was something that everyone had already agreed on. Everyone is fine. Don't worry. This time, I came back mainly to discuss something with everyone. As Long Yu spoke, he waved his hand and let everyone into the courtyard. He glanced around and saw that there weren't many people in the courtyard. There were only a dozen or so. So he asked, "Is everyone else here?" Most of them have gone out to train. Lele has gone to the Sky Cliff City's market to sell elixirs. Why would everyone stay at home? Fenyu Xin covered her mouth and laughed softly. She was the happiest to see Long Yu return. At this moment, she was the most talkative person in the group. Everyone was very convinced of Fenyu Xin's talent and capabilities. Naturally, they would listen to her. Shi Yingwu was at the side. She hugged Long Yu's arm and did not let go. She looked very happy. This little girl worshipped Long Yu and treated him like a big brother. Of course, this little girl was not young. When they first met, this little girl was with Sunset Crane. She was still very young then. Now, she had grown into a beautiful young lady. Most of their cultivation was above the 3-star emperor, but none of them had reached the 7-star emperor. This was also the limit of their cultivation. Even Shi Yingwu, who had received the Death Envoy's inheritance, was only at the 6-star emperor's cultivation. There was still a long way to go before she reached the ruler's mystic realm. However, they should be able to cross this distance very quickly. This was because Long Yu had gained quite a lot from the ancient outsider ruins this time. He would exchange enough cultivation resources with Xiaobai. Arriving at the courtyard, Long Yu surveyed his surroundings and discovered that there were only 15 people present. They were Shi Yingwu, Yan Huan Mo, Fenyu Xin, Feng Xiaofei, and Feng Haofeng. There were also some familiar faces, but Long Yu did not remember them. For example, Chu Huang and Chu Xin. The mother and daughter pair were from the Tang Empire's royal family. There were also Ling Han, Ling Yue, Yi Luan's senior sister, He Qinxue, and so on. There were 15 people in total. To be honest, Long Yu didn't really trust these people. After all, he didn't have a deep relationship with some of them. Therefore, he couldn't say everything and could only pick out a part of them. He said to everyone, "I found a pretty good place to develop. Although that place is rather remote, it definitely doesn't lack cultivation resources. If everyone is willing, you can follow me to that place. There's no need to stay here." Long Yu did not say it was the Void Galaxy. He only said it was a place to develop. He invited everyone. They did not expect Long Yu to ask them to leave as soon as he came back. They were caught off guard. Shi Yingwu shook Long Yu's arm. "Big brother Long Yu, I will go wherever you go. I will stay in your little world." Chapter 1344. Long Yu was rather puzzled by Shi Yongwu's words. "How can you stay in my little world all the time? You'll have your own little world by then. If you stay in my little world all the time, the recovery of the aura in your little world will be much slower." Long Yu shook his head and patted Shi Yongwu's head with a smile. He then looked up and said to the others, "If you want to come, you can come to my little world first. Someone will take you to that place later." "Someone will take us? What about you, Brother Long?" Feng Xiaofei hurriedly asked. "I still have to go to the Demigod College. I don't know how long I'll be there. Anyway, you can follow me to that place first. I can guarantee that you won't regret it." Long Yu said mysteriously. That place had the core of the Divine Temple and the primordial gold pond. Of course, they wouldn't regret going there. Moreover, if they went to the Void Galaxy, there would definitely be abundant resources for cultivation, and they wouldn't have to worry about danger. It was definitely the perfect place for those who wanted to focus on cultivation. By the way, Shui Luo will also go there, so I'm afraid this planet won't be called Bloody Fallen Planet anymore in the future. Without anyone to protect us, there will be endless troubles in the future. Long Yu told the truth. It sounded like a threat, but it was the truth without a doubt. He also hoped that everyone would go to the Void Galaxy to cultivate. As for training, they had already had enough training recently. They had to go on a battlefield mission at least once a month, which was extremely dangerous. What they needed now was a chance to settle down. If they continued to stay on the Bloody Fallen Planet, they wouldn't have such an opportunity for a long time. After settling down once, if they wanted to come out again, they could leave through the space-time tunnel once every 3 months, come here for training for 3 months, and then go back to settle down. All in all, the cultivation environment in the Void Galaxy was definitely top-notch. It was the quietest place to cultivate. Of course, no one present would object to this statement. "I believe in Big Brother Long naturally. I'll go with you," Feng Haofeng said solemnly. This person had always been steady. Even he had agreed to go, let alone the others. Even Chu Huang, Chu Xen, He Qin Xue, and the others. Although they did not interact much with Long Yu, they still trusted Long Yu very much. They all nodded their heads and agreed to go together. Since everyone has agreed, we won't waste any more time. Let's go find the others first. Also, leave a jade slip so that the others will know where we went. As Long Yu spoke, he asked Little White, who was in the small world, to help him leave a jade slip. If other people came to the courtyard and couldn't find him, they would be the same if they saw the jade slip. In an instant, he appeared in the market of Sky Cliff City, next to Liao Lele and the others. At that moment, Liao Lele's face was red with anger. Qin Yishuang and Zi Su, who were beside her, were also filled with righteous indignation. However, the 3 of them were too weak and couldn't fight against the other side. The leader of the other party was a middle-level Sovereign Realm Ghost Bat Demon race young master. He came to Shui Luo Star to train. Coincidentally, Maruhan was leading a team to plunder the Shui Luo Star, so he followed. After arriving at Sky Cliff City's market, the young master saw Liao Lele and the others. Immediately, evil thoughts rose in his heart. He wanted to take the 3 of them into his harem. Of course, the young master liked Liao Lele the most. After all, Liao Lele was an extremely skilled alchemist. This was a well-known fact in the entire Sky Cliff City's market. Therefore, the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon race would not give up easily. Beside the young master, there was a small team of Ghost Bat Demon race's battlefield army. There were 2 upper-level sovereign experts protecting the young master. It seemed like Maruhan had taken good care of him. However, this did not affect Long Yu. Since he was here, the other party could not do anything to Liao Lele and the others. Young Master Long. As soon as she saw Long Yu's figure, Qin Yashuang reacted quickly. Her eyes were misty. She thought Long Yu was dead. She did not expect Long Yu to suddenly appear in front of her. She could not help but wonder if she was dreaming. "I'm back. Everyone is fine. Follow me." Long Yu did not have much to say to Qin Yashuang, Liao Lele, and Zi Su. Liao Lele needed a stable environment to refine elixirs. As for Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, they would definitely listen to Long Yu. There was no doubt about it. Therefore, Long Yu raised his hand and enveloped the 3 women in his world energy. Of course, the 3 women had absolute trust in Long Yu. Without any resistance, they excitedly entered Long Yu's small world. This scene left the Ghostbat Demon Clan's young master dumbfounded. What the hell? Someone actually dared to snatch them in front of him? Moreover, the three girls were really willing to be taken into the small world by the person who came. When Qin Yashuang said, "Young Master Long," there were too many emotions. This clearly showed that the three of them knew Liao Lele. However, this didn't stop this young master from wanting to possess Liao Lele. This kind of young master from the demon race's territory was used to being domineering. He did not care about rules at all. He was completely lawless. Now that he was in the third outer galaxy, he could not change his bad habit. He was immediately angry. "Brat, how dare you ruin my plan? Do you know who I am?" The Ghostbat Demon Clan's young master's face sank. He scolded Long Yu in a stern voice. "Hand over the three women now, and this young master will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, just wait to die. I advise you not to make a fool of yourself. Otherwise, you will be the one to die." Long Yu sent Liao Lele and the other two women into his small world. He was relieved. He was not interested in the young master at all. He wanted to leave immediately. However, the young master would not let him leave just like that. "You want to leave? Not so easy." The Ghostbat Demon Clan's young master relied on his strength as a mid-level sovereign. He didn't ask his bodyguards to help him. He raised his hand, and spatial divine runes instantly exploded, sealing Long Yu's entire body in a layer of spatial barrier. This guy had trapped Long Yu. Unfortunately, this layer of space barrier was nothing to Long Yu. He smirked. He raised his hand and extended a path of 9 underworlds. The space barrier was completely destroyed in an instant. This situation shocked the young master of the Ghostbat Demon Clan. His already dark face became even darker. He raised his hand and shouted, "Capture him for me." These words were said to the two superior ruler bodyguards beside him. It was also because Long Yu had casually used the 9 underworlds path to break his spatial seal that he understood that Long Yu wasn't someone he could deal with. Even though Long Yu was a lower-level dominator and he was an upper-level dominator, the young master knew that some people's strength could not be judged purely by their cultivation. The two bodyguards did not recognize Long Yu. As soon as they heard the young master's words, they immediately attacked and prepared to subdue Long Yu. Chapter 1345. Under normal circumstances, there wouldn't be any problems for a higher ruler to deal with a lower ruler. However, it was a pity that the two of them had met Long Yu. Seeing that the other party was going all out, Long Yu wasn't in a hurry to leave. Since they didn't want his face, how could he not collect some interest? Although the opponents were too higher ruler, Long Yu wasn't afraid at all. In truth, with Long Yu's current strength, an ordinary higher ruler wouldn't be a match for him. To Long Yu, challenging someone of a higher rank was as common as having a meal. Even though these two dominators were elites of the army on the battlefield, and they were brimming with killing intent and rich battle experience, they were still unable to suppress Long Yu. They're really fighting? Who's that kid? He's just a lower ruler, and he dares to go against the Ghostbat Demon race's young master? I don't know him, but he seems to be someone from the courtyard. He must be related to Legion Commander Shui Luo. Otherwise, he wouldn't know that female alchemist. Isn't Legion Commander Shui Luo dead? Even if this brat wants to stick his neck out, it's really not the right time to do so. Wouldn't he be throwing his life away? The surrounding crowd pointed in disgust. It was obvious that they had a good impression of Legion Commander Shui Luo. They also felt that it was a pity that Shui Luo had died. As for the Ghostbat Demon race members in front of them, most of them were unhappy. That was because when the young master led the way to the market, he had taken advantage of many of them, causing them to suffer huge losses. Now that they saw someone going against the young master, although they were happy, they didn't think well of Long Yu. They felt that he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat the young master. Most importantly, those two high-level dominator bodyguards weren't just for show. They were definitely senior, captain-level figures of the Monarch army. They had extremely rich battle experience and were stronger than ordinary high-level dominators. Of the two higher ruler experts, one was in charge of attacking, while the other was in charge of blocking. Obviously, They didn't want Long Yu to escape. However, they didn't expect that Long Yu had no intention of escaping at all. One of them flashed to the entrance of the market and raised his hand to conjure a spatial barrier, covering the space around Long Yu. He wanted to stop Long Yu from escaping. The other person attacked Long Yu. The Ghost Bat Demon Race members were innately proficient in Shadow Attribute Divine characters. At this moment, he raised his hand and a gray fog spread out. Fog of Desire. That person shouted. Obviously, he used a Khanate theurgy. Moreover, it was a very powerful Khanate theurgy. Under the cover of this gray fog, all opponents would become unconscious and drowsy. It was an extremely powerful mind theurgy. Unfortunately, his opponent was Long Yu. When the gray fog enveloped Long Yu, he immediately activated his pure world body. The tyrannical power of this martial arts secret technique directly purified the gray fog that had invaded Long Yu's body. So, Long Yu wasn't affected by the gray fog at all. As long as one didn't reach the Great Ruler Realm, it was still a little too early to use Mind Theurgy to deal with Long Yu. Since the other party dared to attack him in broad daylight, there was no need for Long Yu to show any mercy. Raising his hands, he condensed 2 light blue spatial blades. Space-rending slash. The Duankong Sacred Spring turned into 2 sharp blades and instantly swept into the opponent's body. It found the location of the opponent's beast Dan and was about to stab and pierce through it. However, it was clear that his opponent was also incomparably vigilant. At this moment, he abruptly transformed into a large pitch-black bat. His entire body suddenly transformed into a black mist, disappearing from his original location, successfully dodging Long Yu's sneak attack. Light of Equalization. The effect of Long Yu's Light of Equalization was not over yet. His spiritual sense was very strong, so he found the opponent's position in an instant. It was not far to the left. Then, the Void Nether Dragon Blade didn't need Long Yu to control it. It directly pierced through space and arrived in the blink of an eye. The Water Element Absolute Beginning Energy formed a spatial blade and easily pierced through one of the opponent's wings. After all, the Nether Void Dragon Blade was a divine grade absolute beginning weapon born from the absolute beginning furnace, and it had its own consciousness. It was a divine grade absolute beginning weapon that was compatible with Long Yu to the peak. Its power was no less than an ordinary 6th awakened stage divine grade absolute beginning weapon. His attack had severely wounded his opponent. His opponent did not even know where Long Yu had attacked from. Although he had only pierced one of his wings for the Ghost Bat Demon Clan, wings were obviously very important, just like the Blood Demon Clan. This made the opponent instantly furious. He was a high-level ruler, but he was injured by a mere lower-level ruler. If word got out, how would he be able to stay in the army on the battlefield? No matter what, he had to get back at him, and the simplest way was to kill this brat. 10,000 bats shocked the sky. Suddenly, countless bat shadows exploded from his body, completely hiding his body in the countless bat shadows. This was a supreme grade Archean martial skill. It was obvious that it was his trump card. An unbounded martial skill was not that easy to obtain. For ordinary people, a supreme grade Archean martial skill was definitely second to none. Once it was used, it would determine the outcome of the battle. Unfortunately, using such a martial technique to deal with Long Yu was still a little too weak. Fallen Dark Star. In battle, Long Yu had always been very cautious about his opponent's methods. He would always display the most suitable method to break them. Right now, countless bat shadows were rushing towards him. Not a single one of them was strong. To Long Yu, there was no need for him to display any large-scale defensive methods. By relying on balance control, Long Yu could clearly understand the movements of each of the opponent's bat shadows and then condense fallen dark stars. Each fallen dark star could accurately hit the weakest part of a bat shadow and then explode, completely destroying the opponent. With Long Yu's current strength, he could condense thousands of fallen dark stars in every breath of time. No matter how many bat shadows there were, they were nothing but food for Long Yu. The explosions of the fallen dark stars continued. The countless bat shadows couldn't do anything to Long Yu. But at this time, the opponent's attack came one after another. This time, it was a high-grade, unbounded combat weapon. It was a pair of pitch-black spikes, and while Long Yu was dealing with the bat shadows, it pierced through the void and stabbed towards Long Yu. For ordinary people, an unbounded high-grade combat weapon was already a very powerful method. If they were lucky, they could explode with several times the strength, and the power would be even stronger than an ordinary divine-grade absolute beginning combat weapon. Now, the opponent's pitch-black spikes pierced through the void and exploded with 7 times the strength. The terrifying power it produced made even Long Yu feel like he couldn't resist it. He actually exploded with 7 times the strength. What kind of dogshit luck does this guy have? Long Yu gritted his teeth. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and activated the Battlemaster's celestial barrier. He released the death chi that entangled him and covered his body with a layer of death armor. Then, the pair of pitch-black spikes directly broke through the outermost layer of the death chi. Their power was slightly weakened, and they stabbed straight into the Battlemaster's celestial barrier. In an instant, cracks appeared on the Battlemaster celestial barrier. The momentum of the spikes did not decrease, and they landed on the death armor. In the end, they pierced through the death armor and stabbed into Long Yu's body. The sudden attack caught Long Yu off guard. Fortunately, he had used a defensive method in time, reducing the power of the opponent's assassination by at least half. Although the 2 pitch-black thorns had broken through Long Yu's defense and pierced into his body, they did not cause too much damage. This kind of injury would only require a short period of recuperation before he could rely on the demon dust heart to recover. Long Yu gritted his teeth, and with the help of the nether dragon blade, his figure flickered away. 12-star prison. He waved his hand and released a 2nd-grade divine formation. The power of the divine characters in his body turned into 12 crescent-shaped arches. They instantly sealed the space where the opponent was and trapped him. A 2nd-grade divine formation was one of the best in the world. After being trapped in the 12-star prison, it would not be easy for the opponent to escape. I can at least hold on for 10 breaths of time. In 10 breaths of time, I have to unleash a wave of attacks and kill the other guy. Long Yu thought to himself. His battles had always been orderly. Although the other person was still watching from afar and responsible for sealing the space, it would not be good if Long Yu used his full strength and the other person also came to help. Therefore, Long Yu took advantage of the fact that the opponent was unprepared to trap one of them in the 12-star prison. Then, he would deal with the other one first. Oh, you want to target me? The eyes of the other middle-aged man from the Ghostbat clan, who was a higher sovereign, turned red. Of course, when he saw what Long Yu was doing, he could not help but smirk. When he saw his comrade injuring Long Yu, he felt that the battle was almost over. After all, his battle strength was slightly stronger than the other person. A higher sovereign was fighting 2 against 1, and the odds of winning were 100%. The middle-aged man from the Ghostbat clan did not pay much attention to the fact that Long Yu had trapped his comrade. Instead, he took out a Blood Pagoda battle weapon. He held the Blood Pagoda battle weapon in his hand. His entire body exuded a scarlet aura, causing the people around him to subconsciously shiver. Even the young master of the Ghostbat demon clan trembled a few times. However, he was standing outside the spatial seal. At this moment, he was extremely excited. Yes, that's right. Hurry up and kill him. Bring me those 3 women. I didn't expect that kidnapping women would happen in the outer domain galaxy near the battlefield army. What an eye-opener. Are you still part of the battlefield army? Long Yu smirked. He walked toward the middle-aged man from the Ghostbat clan and said calmly, "We don't need a mere human like you to care about what we do." The middle-aged man from the Ghostbat clan said disdainfully. The Blood Pagoda battle weapon in his hand suddenly enlarged. Countless blood-colored whips extended from the Blood Pagoda battle weapon and lashed toward Long Yu. Chapter 1346. The blood-colored whips danced around like a bunch of demons. The stench of blood enveloped the entire place, making many of the onlookers feel suffocated. One could imagine the pressure Long Yu was facing right now. However, in the eyes of the crowd, Long Yu was still standing there with a smile on his face. He had no intention of blocking the blood-colored whips. This surprised many of them. Had the kid given up on resisting? It didn't seem very likely, but why was he just standing there without moving? However, they would soon find out. Under the attacks of the blood-colored whips, the body of Long Yu was easily smashed into pieces in front of everyone. Without a doubt, that was just a mirror image that Long Yu had created. Long Yu had taken advantage of the fact that his opponent wasn't paying attention to form a primordial shadow to deceive him. Then, he turned into nothingness and approached his opponent. By the time his opponent realized that it was only a mirror image that Long Yu had left behind, it was already too late for him to react. Long Yu's sinister method was one of the reasons why he had won by surprise. At this moment, Long Yu had already sneaked up behind his opponent and taken out the ancient Dragonbone Tower. Unbounded top-tier combat weapon, ancient Dragonbone Tower. In the next moment, the Dragonbone Break was unleashed. His opponent had just reacted when he was faced with Long Yu's vicious attack. A terrifying shockwave erupted from behind him. 4 times the power, this was the strongest Dragonbone burst that Long Yu had ever unleashed since he had used the ancient Dragonbone Tower. In an instant, his opponent's body was completely destroyed, and the ancient Dragonbone Tower smashed into the ground of the entire market, creating a huge crater. The shockwave swept out, sending a large number of the nearby spectators flying. The spatial barrier that the ruler had set up just now was also completely shattered by this attack. There wasn't even a need for a specialized technique like the 9 Underworld Path to be able to break through it. The entire bazaar was a mess. The first Ghostbat Demon Tribe's superior ruler was still trapped in the 12-star prison. However, the 12-star prison had been swept away by the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower shockwave and was on the verge of collapse. Without waiting for the other party to break out of the 12-star prison, Long Yu instructed the Void Nether Dragon Blade to fly to the top of the 12-star prison and condense the power of water. Void Burial. Long Yu would not show the slightest mercy to those who dared to make a move in the Outer Domain galaxy. He would kill them if he could. It would be fine if it was him this time, but if it was someone else and they were targeted by the Ghostbat clan's young master, they would not have a good life for the rest of their lives. Therefore, Long Yu did not have the slightest bit of mercy when dealing with such a fellow. However, Long Yu did not want to affect others. Therefore, he activated the ancient Dragonbone Tower and created a layer of absolute space domain at the side. Then, Void Burial began to erupt. Absolute space domain. It should be able to offset most of the power of Void Burial, right? Long Yu thought to himself. He did not stay in the absolute space domain. Only the 12-star prison and the Ghostbat Demon Tribe's superior ruler were left in the absolute space domain. In the next moment, the Void Burial formed by the power of water, and the power of water erupted. The terrifying shockwave caused the entire bazaar to tremble once again. Everything in the absolute space domain was twisted into the Void Burial and blasted into pieces. Everything, including the 12-star prison and the Ghostbat Demon Tribe's superior ruler, was completely annihilated in the Void Burial. Nothing was left. Even his small world mark was destroyed. This was because the small world mark was not made of any sturdy material. If such a terrifying explosion were to erupt, it would be enough to raise the entire Sky Cliff City to the ground. Fortunately, Long Yu had isolated it from the outside world with his absolute space domain. Otherwise, the damage would be unimaginable. As such, the 2 superior rulers of the Ghostbat monstrous clan had both died at Long Yu's hands. He did not bother with superfluous words. His figure flashed, and he arrived before the young master of the Ghostbat monstrous clan. As for you, it seems like you have quite a high status. I'll take you as a hostage. The corners of Long Yu's lips curled up slightly. He directly grabbed the young master with the 9 Underworld's hand. The Ghostbat Demon Tribe's young master was also a lesser ruler. He could not resist at all against Long Yu's attack. His strength was directly sealed by the 9 underworld's hand. Then, Long Yu enveloped him with the power of his world and directly sent him into his small world. Long Yu did not kill him because he thought that the young master's identity might be of some use. Seeing how arrogant he was, he probably had a high status in the Ghost Bat Demon tribe. If he encountered one Hun of the Ghost Bat Demon tribe, he might be able to use this young master to threaten him. Just like that, the great battle ended. To Long Yu, he had only dealt with 2 minor characters. Although he had to use quite a few of his trump cards in order to kill them, it was still not difficult at all. However, to the surrounding people, this situation was incredible. A trifling lower-level Dominator youth had actually killed 2 upper-level Dominator army powerhouses on the battlefield. This could be considered a miracle. The ordinary martial cultivators around him were all mercenaries of the battlefield army. They usually only did ordinary battlefield army missions. They had never seen such a powerful person before. At this moment, all of them were dumbfounded by the powerful combat strength displayed by Long Yu. No one expected the final outcome of the battle to be like this. When the people around him came to their senses, they began to clap and cheer. There was no doubt that what the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon tribe had done in the market had made the others unhappy. Unfortunately, there were not many powerful existences in the market, so they could not attack the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon tribe. Moreover, even if there were great rulers here, they would not dare to attack him. After all, this was the Outer Domain Galaxy, the headquarters of the battlefield army. However, the young master of the Ghost Bat Demon tribe was protected by 2 captain-level bodyguards of the battlefield army. Who would dare to fight against the people of the battlefield army? Only Long Yu could ignore the young master's identity and attack him brazenly. Little brother, although your combat strength is very strong, you have caused a great disaster. You have killed someone from the battlefield army. Hurry up and leave, or I'm afraid you will lose your life. An old man came to Long Yu's side and tried to persuade Long Yu. It's fine. Uncle, my name is Long Yu. I believe that everyone in the outer regions of the galaxy should have heard of my name before. Long Yu felt a little warm when he saw that the old man was so concerned about him. However, he had a first-class honor badge, so he did not need to be afraid of the old man's identity as a member of the battlefield army. Even if the Ball Soul came in person, Long Yu would not be afraid of him. After all, Long Yu was going to the Demigod College this time, and he had the support of a demigod expert. Most importantly, the Battlefield Legion had always been a sacred place. Now that the Ghost Bat Monsters clan had allowed this young master to come here to train, he even enjoyed some special privileges. Even if this matter were to be made known to the higher-ups, it would not benefit the Ghost Bat Monsters clan at all. In fact, it might even cause the Ghost Bat Monsters clan to suffer a blow. This kind of thing was strictly forbidden in the battlefield army. It was only when Shuel Luo was dead that the Ball Soul dared to let the people of the Ghost Bat Demon tribe come and take advantage of the situation. It would not do the Ball Soul any good if the matter was brought to light. As long as it was not brought to the higher-ups, Long Yu had Little White and Shuel Luo by his side. Who could do anything to him? It was just that the opponents were not strong, and Little White was too lazy to do anything. If there was really a 4th or 5th stage Great Sovereign coming to deal with Long Yu, Little White could directly make them lose all their combat power. The moment Long Yu said his name, the old man's face immediately turned blank. Even the ordinary martial cultivators in the market would definitely have heard of this name. Wasn't the most important person in the Ice God tribe's victory Long Yu? It was said that he was a young man of the human race who had not even reached the Sovereign Secret Realm. He had actually stalled 3 demigods of the Ice God tribe in the battle against the Ice God tribe, allowing the 3 demigods of the Ice God tribe to be killed by the demigods of the demon race, which led to the Ice God tribe's final victory. The name of Long Yu resounded like thunder in the ears of everyone present. In particular, it was rumored that Long Yu's base camp in the Outer Domain Galaxy was on the Shuel Luo star. This made the mercenary stationed on the Shuel Luo star even more proud. Unfortunately, the news that came back a while ago said that Shuel Luo and the others had died in the ancient race's ruins, including the hero Long Yu. Therefore, at this time, no one in the market would think of Long Yu's identity. Moreover, the rumor said that Long Yu had not reached the sovereign secret realm, but the current Long Yu was already a lower sovereign secret realm. Then again, it was natural for a genius's cultivation to rise quickly. This was especially true for those who had contributed greatly to the battlefield and were rewarded by the various armies. It was normal for Long Yu to jump from the monarch realm to the sovereign secret realm. It's Long Yu. He is so strong. He is only a lower sovereign realm expert, but he can kill 2 higher sovereign realm experts in a row. Amazing. That's right. As expected of our demon race's hero. Those Ghostbat demon race guys are really daring to cause trouble for Long Yu. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Long Yu did not stay in the same place for too long. After grabbing the Ghostbat demon race's young master, he left the market with him. The people who came out of Long Yu's small world were mostly in the process of gaining experience. Long Yu couldn't find them even if he wanted to. He could only wait for them to come back and see the jade slip and wait in the courtyard. 3 days was enough for a normal training mission. At that time, Long Yu would definitely send Little White back to the Shuel Luo star before going to the Demigod Academy. Therefore, he could bring more people to the Void Galaxy when he came back. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.